all of us have these gifts. We say it all the time. The fruit doesn't belong to the tree. The fruit belongs to the ecosystem. But if the tree is malnourished, if the tree's soil is not being watered and taken care of, then the fruit it's going to bear will not be of quality.
And said another way, if you're living in a state of survival and stress, you're creating from a state of survival and stress. You're attracting from a state of survival and stress. And this is what most people don't get.
For the past 15 years, Preston Smiles and Alexi Panos have immersed themselves in mastering human potential, relationships, and transformative studies. As global speakers and successful authors, they are dedicated to transforming lives and the way we live.
I said, how many of you identify as strong, independent women where you got your own back and you are paying all the bills? Most women raise their hand. Beautiful. Yes, I identify as that too. I said, now put your hands up if you're tired. All of them put their hand up. Now put your hand up if you want to just relinquish a little bit of that, but you just don't want to hold it all anymore. And you want somebody to come and hold you. Hands up. So what that points to is that,
to me, when it comes to men's work or women's work or any kind of work, our job is to snatch our power back. Is to say, hey, I got this from my mom, and her mom. I got my concept of money from my dad, and his dad. What do I want that to be? What do I choose in this?
For someone who's receiving what you're saying, they understand it, but they have a partner who has absolutely no idea. How does that partner help their partner get on the same page?
Welcome to the Sacred Thomas Podcast.
All right, we're live. How are y'all doing?
Oh man, super good.
yeah,
Super good,
coming off hot of 2 days of deep work in the bridge, which is our signature program. So it was amazing.
Yeah, we were literally just talking about it before we started rolling. Yeah. Can y'all tell me more about, I mean, we talked about it a little bit when I interviewed Preston, but what does the bridge do for people?
Yeah.
Why should people take it? Why should people join the program?
So the biggest thing is it is embodiment, right?
Okay.
So most personal development works on the mind, and that's great, but the mind's only responsible for 20% of our behavior. And so if I train my mind, I read all the books, I do the mindset work, I do leadership programs, I've got all my personal development developed, I've only got about 20% influence on my life, which is still great. But what about the other 80%, right? 80% happens in the body, our somatic body, how we shape in the world, our biology, so our nervous system, and in our field beyond. And so we work with those three aspects of what it means to be human.
Okay. How did y'all, because I want to know more, how did you guys come to that conclusion that 80% happens in the body?
Research. And I mean, the real talk of it is everybody knows somebody in their family or friend group or themselves that every year they're declaring I'm going to make the money this year. I'm going to lose the weight this year. I'm going to have the best relationship. I'm going to call in a partner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they can all talk till the cows come home. But there's something that happens when that person meets adversity. And what happens is all that mindset work means nothing if the nervous system is not aligned with it. It means nothing if the body and the identity that the body that they've connected into, if those two aren't aligned, then the moment something hard happens, people will go right back to homeostasis. It's like this room that we're in, right? The air conditioning is set for 73. If it gets too hot, it'll kick on. If it gets too cold, it'll kick on and bring it back to 73. Everybody has a core set point for what they believe is possible for them. This is not even in the conscious mind. This is the subconscious mind. Below the like top layer Instagram quotes mind is a whole world where that is the attraction point. And so we help people not just work on the subconscious mind, but we help them expand their bodies in such a way that whether they are dreaming about it or not, I say this all the time. I didn't chase dreams. I chased alignment. And when I was in alignment, dreams chased me. And so our work is that. It's how congruent, how receptive, how open, how big and available can you be to the one power, such that you can be used to serve yourself, your community, your family, and the world as a whole.
Yeah. See, most people think it's a mindset game and like a knowledge game. Like the more knowledge I have, the more power I have. But it's a capacity game, right? So the more capacity I have in my body to hold the life I say I want, the more I can actually hold. If I don't have the capacity, if my capacity is, let's say 20%, but I want a 50% life, the minute 30% comes in, I'm collapsing. I'm going back to old patterns. I'm going back to my old ways of being. So we've got to work and prime the nervous system to go, hey, we're actually not this person. This is not who I am. It's who I became through my patterns of my body based on what I deemed was safe or not. So when we go, okay, I got to go into the unknown here. I got to play in the I don't know what I don't know. I got to jump all the way in and retrain my nervous system to know, 30% safe. Okay, breathe and anchor 30. Okay, what does that feel like? Can I go a little bit further? 40%, 50%, 60%. And so our workshop is the expansion into the unknown where your body goes, I can be bigger and it's safe.
You know what's crazy too? One more piece. And not that we condone this person's lifestyle, but R. Kelly wrote this song and he was like, my mind is telling me no, but my body's telling me yes.
Yeah.
There is so much truth to that.
Wow.
Because we are threefold beings: body, mind, soul, right? 3 centers of intelligence: the head, the heart, and the gut. When all 3 are aligned, we're at our most powerful. The head, the mind can be telling you one thing, but your body's telling you another. And the soul is going, bitch, I already know.
Yep.
I already know. So you can either get in line or you can not. But all roads lead to the same place, in our opinion.
I'm just going to speak to that real quick because I think that point about the soul knowing and the body not being able to hold it, that's when most people feel really out of touch with their life. Where they're like, man, just something's off. I can't touch it. Something's not there. I don't know what it is. And we start to feel so disconnected. It's because we have a knowing of what's possible. It's like that higher self being like, you can go further. I know what's possible, but the body's like, but I can't hold it. And so the patterns keep going, well, no, this is what life is. This is what reality is. This is what's meant for you. You can't push past this. You're not that person. Who do you think you are? Then imposter syndrome kicks in. But deep down, you have this desire that's so strong that pulls you, and people can't connect that dissonance. And the connection, the missing piece is the body. And the frustrating part about somatic work, which is what we do, it's not linear, right? Like most people want linear. They want A to B. Like, just give me the framework. Like, give me the magic formula. Just give me the answer so I can be successful tomorrow.
Because my next question was going to be, how long does it take? So I'm glad you brought that up.
Of course, because we as human beings, we think we're broken, so we want to fix, right? But we're not broken. We're just at minimum capacity. So the game is not to fix anything, but to expand. Just expand, emerge. Emerge is more of who we already are, but we've been ingrained into a pattern that tells us we're not. So it's a practice and it takes time. But the cool part about somatic work and nervous system work is even incremental changes creates more choice, creates more expansion. More choice creates a different person in the same scenario. So the people that came to our workshop, they had 2 days of priming, nervous system, body, nervous system, body. They come back to their old life. Their old life was set up from the old identity, the old pattern. Maybe they set a life of chaos up. Maybe they set a life up of addiction and distraction. They come back to that old life, but they have more space in their body, and therefore they have more choice because now their learning brain is turned on. And therefore, they can look at that life and go, do I choose this? That's how change happens. It's in the micro moments. We say the mastery happens in the crevices of your life, not in the big moments. The big moments help, but it's the crevices and those decisions that you make and who you are in the tiny moments that is your entire life.
Wow. And I know that's definitely something that's going to resonate with the audience, but it speaks to me directly. Like, as you're saying this stuff, I know personally, like, I've gotten to a decent point in my life, but I know I'm destined for more.
Yes.
Like I know it.
There's another level for people, especially right now, because so many people have read so many books, listened to so many podcasts, and yet things aren't transforming. There's a difference between change and transformation, right? I can change circumstantially, but to transform would be no matter what the circumstances. I am the sky, and that is the weather, right? It's when we become a context of I am the sky and I hold the weather, the whole game changes. Mm-hmm. Most people, when storms come, they identify as the storm. Oh, it's I have broken up with again. I'm just so bad with money.
I'm so messed up. I'm so fucked up. I'm unlovable. I'm unworthy.
Yes.
Versus I'm experiencing something that's very human.
Yep.
That's it.
You guys said that through somatic work, like change is not linear. So, in terms of that expansion, how? Because I guess, I'm still thinking linear. Like, how quick can it be? Yes. Does it depend on where that person is at in their life, or does it depend on how well they're open to receiving?
That part.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything.
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that most humans don't understand about themselves. Most people spend the majority of their lives in what we would call hypervigilance, meaning they are in a fight, flight, freeze, or appease stance. They are bracing for the next messed up thing that's happening. Mm-hmm. And our bodies and are not designed to be watching the news and finding out that another person got shot or killed or whatever the case may be. And so we're taking in all this stimulus. We're scrolling through social media and we're seeing death and destruction and lack and limitation. And then we're going into a world where there's traffic and horns and sounds and I got to figure out my money game and my this game, and the relationship is causing me stress. And people are so full with 35 different, it's called a chemical cocktail. 35 different hormones and things shoot off in the body when we go into these states, right? And so if I'm doing that 20 times a day, I'm probably not anywhere close to available to the parts of me that would bring forth my Einstein or my Beethoven or my Bob Marley or my, whoever, right? And so all of us have these gifts. We say it all the time. The fruit doesn't belong to the tree. The fruit belongs to the ecosystem. But if the tree is malnourished, if the tree's soil is not being watered and taken care of, then the fruit it's going to bear will not be of quality. So our job before we get to anything, I need to get over there, is to make sure our soil is being tended to, right?
And said another way, if you're living in a state of survival and stress, you're creating from a state of survival and stress. You're attracting from a state of survival and stress. And this is what most people don't get, right? Like a lot of people, they do manifestation and law of attraction work, and they're like, I don't get it. I'm doing everything right. Why am I not getting the thing? Your 80% of your vibration is off. It's survival. So you could be saying all the right things. I'm powerful. I am abundant. I am worthy of receiving love. But your body's like, no, survival. This is not going to work. We don't feel enough yet. We must get more money, more recognition, more. The chase for more is a symptom of hypervigilance. And how many people do we know are living in that state of never enough?
Correct.
It's got to be more.
It's right. Like dressing up, putting lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
Right. It's high level addicts. Right. We know so many people who come into our workshops who want more followers and more money and more this and more that. And it's just what's the word? A
Band-Aid.
No, the word I'm looking for is around how society says it's okay. Like we praise somebody who's trying to get to the top. But the truth is that it's a different form of addiction. They're no different than the crack addict looking for the next hit. It's both are a sickness One is socially acceptable. There we go. One of them is socially acceptable. The other is looked down upon. But if I'm on Wall Street and I feel like a piece of shit unless I'm making a certain amount of money, if I'm on Wall Street and I'm chasing the next thing and the next thing, and I need another Porsche and another car and another this and another girlfriend and another this to keep getting high, then it's just a socially acceptable form of addiction.
That hit. So this is definitely for everyone.
Correct.
So because you're talking about people who are at the highest of the high.
Oh yeah.
Who, yeah, again, like you said, we just accept that they've built all this wealth, but they can still be broken inside.
That's right.
So
the cool thing about somatic work is like, no matter what level you're at in your somatic availability, there's always more. Why? Because we're quantum beings. So we only know a fraction of what's possible with our field. And science is coming out now that is proving what spirituality has been saying all along, is that we emit energy. We live in a field of energy. We are a field of energy. We are only beginning to scratch the surface of what it means to tap into that potential. And when we're in a nervous system that's dysregulated and in hypervigilant states, we're only acting from our survival brain, our reptilian brain. So in order to access, have you seen Limitless, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. So in order to access our limitless brain, the full powers of our executive functions of our brain, we have to be in a relaxed state. Most of us have not experienced a relaxed state in a very long time. So that's just showing you, like, if you're crushing it in survival mode, imagine what's possible for you if you can be in a regulated, safe body and open up your capacity and your power as a human animal. Like, we are animals and we have so many more powers than we even can understand, but we don't even begin to tap into it until we get back in the body.
You guys sold me.
Like, I'm there.
Australia, October?
Here I come.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, sold me. Wow. Yeah, that again, speaking right to me. I feel like I'm crushing it in survival mode. So, and I know a lot of people can also relate to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You guys, it actually made me think of one of the questions. You remember how I made that post saying that, telling my audience to actually ask us questions.
Yeah.
There was someone, her name is Femme Finesse by Vivian. She asked, how can I become the type of woman that attracts this type of man? And she was referring to Preston.
To my hubby.
Yeah. And I think you guys touched on it a little bit, but can you dive deeper into the question?
Well, yeah, I'll speak from my standpoint. Then obviously I think it's valuable to hear from him as well. But the truth is, who you are right now is enough. And you're going to attract whoever you need to attract to get the lessons that you need to become the type of woman that can hold a relationship you want. And the truth is, when P and I met, we weren't these people. We weren't. We were dope. We were amazing, but we didn't have the skills to be in partnership powerfully. So I just want to take the glass ceiling off for a lot of people, because they see us now and they're like, man, your relationship goals. Yes. It's like, yeah, but what you didn't see was the years of fighting unconsciously. What you didn't see is all the shit we had to go through and learn about ourselves to be resourced in our bodies, to actually be with each other. And so the type of woman that you need to be is the type of woman you are right now. And you're going to meet somebody and hopefully get into the relationship dojo and learn with a willing partner how to be powerful in partnership together, right? So I'll say that. That's my caveat. Secondary, a woman's only job is to create self-containment. That's our only job. A lot of women, we never learn that skill. This is our true healthy inner masculine, is self-containment. It's not, oh, you work hard, you're a boss, babe, you make money. That's what we think is our masculine. Oh, I'm too in my masculine, I'm always working. That's not your masculine. That's shadow masculine. I got to get more. I got to get more. I got to get more. Control. Healthy masculine is boundaried. Self-containment. I am living in devotion to what I say matters to me. Most women look to their partner and say, hey, do this for me. Contain me. And then a man goes, okay, I've never learned how to do that, because most men haven't. And then they start to feel the pressure of, man, I can't hold her. I can't even hold myself. And then the woman looks at the man and says, well, I don't feel safe here. And now we have the pattern of most modern relationships of a modern man and a modern woman. They don't know how to create safety within themselves because they never learned, because they had moms that did a lot for them, right? Grew up in the feminist movement. We don't know how to create safety for ourselves because we're so busy looking for men to do that for us. So the new relationship has to evolve. And so women, our only job is to self-source safety here, which means learning how to regulate our nervous system, learning how to come back to safety, knowing that I have me no matter what this man does. I am in my boundaries, I'm in my needs, I'm in my desires, and I honor that and live in devotion to that. And then and only then can I actually be with a man powerfully.
So it starts with self.
Always.
So when you said you have to learn how to regulate your nervous system, is that just like a muscle that you exercise? Is it something you do in the moment? Is it something that is conscious, or does it become unconscious when you get better at it? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So it's a practice. It is a muscle that you flex. And the more you do it, the more it becomes a regular occurrence of, oh, I'm catching myself. I'm in a heightened state right now. How do I bring myself back? Right. But that requires awareness. And most people are so disconnected from their bodies that they don't even know what's happening in their body. Right. So part one of what we do in the bridge is we get people reacquainted to their bodies. We start having them be a scientist, like, hey, what just happened there? Tune in. What did you notice come online in your system? The more you have awareness of like, oh, look what I did there. I just closed down. I just literally somatically closed my shape and got smaller. Interesting. Or I had all this energy come up, and instead of doing the thing I knew I needed to do, I had to throw that energy into food or exercise or masturbation or sex or whatever it is. So we have to first catch it. We have to know what it feels like to catch it. And then we have to have practices and tools to learn how to come back to that homeostasis in our body. So regulation it's like the key that unlocks all consciousness, because you cannot be in a conscious body if you don't know what's happening in the body you're in.
Let me jump in real quick.
Okay.
Because she nailed it, but I'm just going to take a few different angles. To be the type of woman that would attract what you would consider a high value man, to me, would start with forgiving your father or whatever other man in a masculine body harmed you. I think that if you live in this world at this time, you've probably been hurt by a man. And oftentimes what we do is we project onto the next person. So this happened, my dad left me, or X, Y, and Z happened, or I was molested or raped or whatever the case may be in high school. And now I've created a nervous system that is bracing for that to happen again. Well, he abandoned me, right? I'm scrolling, finding out what pictures did he like? Did he like that girl's picture? And it all comes out in this passive aggressive and aggressive way, but it's all projection, right? And so one of the first things anybody could do when they want to attract somebody of value, someone that will really see them, is to clean and clear their own channel by way of starting the process of forgiveness. I'm not saying you have to forgive fully, but we have to start the process of forgiving to even understand that I have pain attached to masculine people. That's a whole beast in itself. Then part two would be, I think this is true for everybody, which is there's something so magnetic about somebody whose cup is full, right? I say it all the time. Fill your own cup and give from the overflow. What men love about women is when they're in their radiance, when they're in their feminine storm, when they're in their dance and their sex and their love and their commitment and their nurture and their art, all of it. We are so turned on by a woman who is turned on by life. Mm-hmm. And so many women are trying to be like men. And therefore, even if you dress it up and make it look good and get your BBLs and fill up your face and put the long eyelashes and all the other stuff on, we can sniff through that. We know when a woman is truly in love with herself and with life. We can feel it. It's an energetic. And to me, if you want to call in what you would call a man like me, you gotta do that self-work on yourself to be in a position where you magnetize, because the whole world is one gigantic mirror. Whatever I do in front of the mirror will be mirrored back to me. And so whatever I'm doing internally, that's coming back right there. Whatever my nervous system is doing is coming back, right? They call it the law of attraction or the law of magnetism. But many people don't understand how that actually works, and that it doesn't have a point where it stops. It doesn't stop at relationships. It's going everywhere, always. What's in your bank account is a result of what's going on inside. What's going on in your relationship is a result of what's going on inside. What's going on with your physical health and body is a result of what's going on inside. So that's some of our most important work.
I just want to jump on something real quick because it's so important. The modern woman, as he said it, we're trying to be like men, right? And it's not that we're trying to be like men, but it's that we had grown up in the feminist soup, which feminism is amazing for so many reasons, right? Because we do get to be equals, but we're not the same. And women have really bought into this, and we have gone so far to the right of build, that we have put our worth in how successful we are, right? And so we've put on the shelf the feminine radiance. Oh yeah, I'll tend to self-care once I get past this launch.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I'll do my art once I am successful at this thing. And so we put success and recognition, traditionally masculine qualities, over radiance and joy and aliveness. But that's our magic. And so it's not that we still can't be a boss babe and be successful. It's that we bring radiance into that world, and our success fucking blows up from that. And that's what people don't get, is we think it's an either or game. Oh, either I have to be a happy housewife and give up this ambition and drive, or I have ambition and drive and I can't get the type of man I want. It's like, no, you get to tap into your superpowers, ladies, which is your radiance, your aliveness, that juice, that we are the creators of life itself. And to really get that means to get that we are the creators of bringing aliveness into this world. And when we shut that off, we dim our light, and then we look to the world to say, hey, can money light me up? Can this relationship light me up? Can this BBL light me up? Can these eyelashes light me up? Because I'm feeling real dim and I need some light in my life. And the light is inside. And that's what he's talking about. Doing the work within, it's inside. When we turn that light up, it affects everything. Relationships get better. Attraction gets better. Success in our business gets better. Everything's easier because we're bringing the current of life to every domain of life.
I am so glad you said what you said. It seems like there's such a divide these days between men and women. Like we're not speaking each other's language.
Yeah. And
when you brought up feminism, I think, again, like you said, like there's a toxic feminism, but there's also what you just described.
Yeah.
It's being able to actually tap into the source of both your masculine and your feminine.
That.
You know, so I'm glad it's coming from you too, because
well,
you said
it's different. It's different. No, it's because I think you receive it differently.
Yes.
When you're receiving from someone who looks like you.
That's it.
So if Preston's saying it might be received sometimes.
Let me tell you this. I did another podcast recently, and on that podcast, I said you cannot want a leader, powerhouse man, and you are doing follower shit. And I was speaking to the BBLs and all that stuff. And this woman wrote in the comments, long comment about how I have no right to ever say anything about a woman. It's a woman's choice and X, Y, and Z. And it's like, you are right. It's everybody's choice. But the question is it a conscious choice?
Right.
Or is it a follower choice? Because BBLs weren't popular 5 years ago. Right. So that's not choice. That's popularity.
Yeah.
And you are a follower. And I can call that out, as I should, because I love you. I love you enough. The most loving thing you could do to another person is to say, your shit stinks. Smell it.
The BBL? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to touch on this because I get pushback from saying what I just said too. Like I've said this on podcasts and women will push back and be like, yeah, but I want to be successful. I want to build. I want to make money. I want to do, and I'm like, yes, you get to have all of that. And we were just in a room this weekend where we had this conversation. I said, how many of you identify as strong, independent women where you got your own back and you are going for it and you are paying all the bills and you are doing all the things? Most women raised their hands, right? We had a lot of strong, independent women in the room. Beautiful. Yes, I identify as that too, right? I said, now put your hands up if you're tired. All of them put their hand up. I said, now put your hand up if you just want to be held. Everyone put their hand up. Like now put your hand up if you want to just relinquish a little bit of that because you just don't want to hold it all anymore. And you want somebody to come and hold you. Hands up. So what that points to is that we have been conditioned to praise and celebrate success and independence. And I got me as the solve for happiness. But if we actually check in and tune in with our bodies, the answer lies there. So if your body is saying that that's working, great. But if your body is telling you a different story, it's time to tune in and take some accountability there. And I think a lot of women, like burnout in women is at its highest it's ever been. And like I said, it's not an either or. You get to have both, but where it comes from is different. And we get to start being honest about this in a world right now that it is countercultural to love men. It is countercultural. It's countercultural to sit and celebrate men. It's countercultural to sit and honor men. It's countercultural to sit and say, I honor my man. That's countercultural right now. Like, think about how crazy that is. And we wonder why we have trouble relating with each other. It's because we live in a society that's like, yeah, but fuck men. They did us dirty. And you know what? They might have. But there's a lot of good men too trying to do right by us. And we got to pay attention to that too. Because what we celebrate, we get more of. What we see expands. And so we got to see, yes, we got to get accountability for all the wrong, but we also got to really focus on, in this particular time of transformation, we are changing as a society. We have to focus on the good men out there that want to do good by us and get back into right relation with us. Because they were harmed too. A lot of them were harmed too, and they're dealing with their own hurt and their own neglect. And we're all learning how to do this together.
No, yeah, I was actually, last time I was here, helping Preston set up some lights. I think I told him about this post I came across on Instagram, and there was this woman who was just talking to the camera saying, I am so tired of black men.
Oh, shit. I was like, tired? Yes, but okay, tell me more.
And, she started to list just saying, they don't want to get in relationships. They gaslight us. They want to act like they're somebody that they're not. And then they're broke. They're driving this, that. And, all the women in the comments were just like, yeah, you're right. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
I'm so tired. And it speaks to what you're saying. It is okay to bash men, because I normally don't comment on these things, but I did.
Yeah.
And I basically just said that may have been true from the people that you have encountered in the past.
Yeah.
But if you focus on what you can control and develop yourself, you can become the type of person that's going to attract different into your life. So I was just putting the power back in her hands.
Yeah.
I got bashed for it.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm so sure.
I got bashed for it.
Yeah.
So it's, again, like you said, some people aren't ready to receive it, but I like the way that you did describe what you described. Like when you guys were in, it was the bridge experience, and you were having them raise their hand.
Yeah.
Two things can be true at the same time.
That's it.
And when you put it that way, I think it can be received a lot better.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't discount that there's a lot of accountability that needs to be had. Like, I run a women's group, and we bring men. We do it in person and online. And both in person and online, we have men that willingly volunteer accountability and say, I just want to apologize for any harm any man has done because we've done a lot of damage. And every woman breaks down into tears, especially when it's in person, because it's like, we have been dying to hear that, right? And it doesn't mean all men. And that is true, right? Like, even the men who have hurt us, a lot of them were hurt themselves. Hurt people hurt people. And so it doesn't make it right, but we can expand the lens of compassion because I know I've done some shit, right? I know I've hurt people, and I know a lot of that hurt has been unconscious. I wasn't in the woman I am now. I was in my little girl energy, wounded, fighting, trying to protect myself, right? And so we have to like take a step back and go, hey, there's a lot of accountability on both sides. And yes, men for a very long time have had women here, and now women are rising, and it's beautiful. And with that rising, we have to relearn how to come back together. And I think right now we're still in the separateness, and we're learning to come closer.
Yeah, I actually heard something the other day, and I don't even remember where it was, but with that rise of women in society, they had said that there's some men that could almost feel like they're losing their use because it's like they could, like, you guys can do everything we can, so what can we offer?
Yeah, so I love this, and this is such a topic in my women's group because a lot of our partners have said those words to us, like, I don't feel like you need me for anything.
And I think a lot of men, we want to feel useful.
Yes,
right?
That is a man's number one, like, joy, is to feel useful to his woman, right? And so we as women, independent women, which I identify as one, it's like we can do it all. And there's a badge of honor we wear with that. And yes, we can do it all. It doesn't mean we have to do it all. It doesn't mean we don't get to invite somebody in to support us, especially somebody who loves doing that for us. Now, I'll say on a very technical level, women, the one thing we cannot do for ourselves is have a masculine, safe home to land in. So providership is often assumed as financial providership. And that's one way that a man can provide, sure. But a lot of women make their own money now. So it's like, well, we don't really need your money. It's nice. It's a nice to have, but I can make my own as well. But what I do need is for you to provide me emotional safety. What I do need is to feel like you're on my team. What I do need is to feel your devotion. And like, that is providership. Like, to me, as the modern independent woman who makes my own money, that's how my man can provide for me. And if he can't do that, then I don't feel a strong use for relationship in my life. But because he can, I have a home in him.
It goes into, you mentioned this actually earlier. You said something about a high value man. And that's actually a question that, because I want to make sure I tag the people who asked that. April Amore X, they asked, what is a high value man? Because that's the term that's being thrown around everywhere. What do you guys think? What is a high value man?
I mean, it could be as simple as a man who is operating from his love space. Because anybody who's choosing love in a world that is promoting lots of fear, lack, limitation, and scarcity, that man is high value. Whether he's a janitor or he's the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. That's my truth. Any man who's leading with his heart is high value.
I would double down on that. I think a high value man is a man that's connected to his heart, is landed in his body, and feels safe within himself such that he can provide safety for a woman and a family.
So why, I connect with that.
Yeah.
Why is society telling us that it's a man that bangs a bunch of women, has Ferraris, and has mansions? And why is it that?
Because
how do we get there?
The world is obsessed with superficial solves. Those money, cars, women, men, beauty, youth, all of that is a superficial Band-Aid for a bigger problem. And when you're bleeding to death, a Band-Aid won't do, but it'll stop the bleeding for a little bit. And you're like, I'm good. until you're not, and you need another Band-Aid.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been teaching for years is that there's only two games ever happening. One is the outside in game, and that essentially states that the cars, the women, the money, the likes, the comments, the followers, the whatever it is, when that is in place, I feel happy. I feel seen. I feel good. The other game is the inside out game. And that states that I am perfect, whole, and complete, but not finished. I am a unique emanation of the Most High, sent here to remind us all of the one truth, which is love is all there is, was, and ever is, was, and ever will be. And regardless of the external circumstances, I will self-source my own needs. To me, going back to there's this book called Healing the Shame That Binds You. And the author, Ken Bradshaw, I believe his name is, or something like that. He writes about how, and it's about toxic shame. And he writes about how someone who identifies as the fuck up in the family and someone who identifies as the overachiever both have the same toxic shame, but two different strategies to stay safe in it. The fuck up says, I'll just mess it all up because I'm a piece of shit. The overachiever says, I'll do a bunch of stuff and get to the top of the mountain and have the best job and the best partner and the best kids so you can't see that I hate myself. It's the difference between working out because you actually genuinely love your body and because you hate it and because you want to look like somebody else on Instagram. It's a context. The man who is self-sourcing, the man who understands that whether I'm cleaning bathrooms in a Walmart or on the come up with a gift or talent I've been given, I'm good. I love me and I love this life. People and this goes across the board. This is not man or woman. Anybody who actually knows how to savor life, to me, is a high value human. All life is valuable.
Yeah.
All of it. And yet there are people, messengers, beacons, who get it. And those people, to me, their job is to fly their freak flag even higher. My job is to fly my freak flag as high as possible and to love my life in such a way that I become a demonstration for what is possible for other people. Because you can't be what you can't see. And most of us grew up watching, Homer Simpson and Al Bundy and a bunch of like checked out, flabby, weak men. And so our idea of man is so skewed that we had to figure it out ourselves. I piecemealed this thing together, right? I got flowers and stuff on this property and guns, right? I do both. That I had to figure out myself. And I got it from watching other men and taking snapshots. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. And then trying it on.
That's the same for women. Like just listening to you say that, like I think about the role models that we have as women. And now, of course, we're seeing more beautiful feminine rising and seeing it everywhere. But growing up, it was either your looks and your youth, or you were like a serious businesswoman or a serious actress like Meryl Streep, right? Nobody looked at Meryl Streep and was like, wow, she's sexy, right? You're like, wow, she's an incredible, talented artist, right? And then there's Pamela Anderson, right? And the bombshell. And so I think we as women were caught in this conundrum of coming from historically being valued for our youth and our looks, but having so much within us that wants to come forth. But a lot of women, we can still see they're tied to that. And I would beg to argue that a high value woman is a woman that doesn't rely on the external to grant her looks and beauty and youth, but it's a light from the inside that is the true beauty. Like I follow so many amazing accounts online of these like 70, 80-year-old women, 65-year-old women whose light is so lit. And I'm just like, that is beautiful.
Yes.
Like that is gorgeous. don't have work done. They're barely wearing makeup. And it's just like they're in ownership of their fullness. And that to me is beauty. It's the way someone moves in the world. And I don't know if you've ever dated someone that's super attractive. I've dated a super attractive, like most attractive man, you know, based on the prototype. But if the essence isn't there, it falls flat. Right. So what is beauty really? And I think we get to ask that as women.
You know, he didn't have that P, you know. he didn't have that.
That's why it's not my husband.
Yeah, actually, on the way over here, I was listening to a podcast, and there was a woman confused when a man on the podcast had said that those BBLs aren't going to keep us. You know? Like the BBL is going to get you a specific type of attention.
Right.
But what's going to keep us is everything on the inside, you know?
Yeah.
But I actually want to, because we keep talking about this BBL. You sent me this. So I want to play this and have you guys react to it.
He showed this to me.
So, because it's right in line with what we're talking about.
Yo, what up? It's your boy Aries Spears here. Hey, yo, quick public service announcement. To all my beautiful black queens out there, I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that I love you, I respect you. You're beautiful and you're mandatory. That being said, can some of y'all please, for the love of God, stop wearing the big fake ass eyelashes? You have no idea. Are you not aware of how ridiculous that shit looks? To have this on your face, it looked like you got pterodactyl wings on your face. You don't need it. And if you're not proportioned correctly and you're as skinny as Snoop Dogg, with this on your face, it's just a horrible look. Them eyelashes look like BBLs for your face. You don't need it. Love and respect. DM me for the link to the Spears and Steinberg podcast.
Yes.
Why did you want to react to that?
I think that, and this is for all the women listeners out there, men hang out with men. We talk. And it comes up quite a bit on how unnatural and not good. It doesn't look good to most men. And so we're so confused behind the scenes where we're like, why do they think that is good? And I get there's a whole world inside of this, but I just want you to know from a man's perspective that I'll do it like this. Let's say I have 50 friends. Of the 50, maybe 3 of them would say, I want a girl with as many fake things as possible. I want a girl who, pumps stuff into her forehead and her cheeks so she looks as unnatural as possible. I want a girl who, does what Kim Kardashian does. I want a follower chick who does that. And so my kids will not understand what facial expressions mean. I want all of that. Like 3 or 4. The rest of us go, hey, like aging gracefully is beautiful. The rest of us say, hey, like what we love about the feminine is not that you don't have wrinkles. That's a story that's been sold that women are buying into that we don't actually care about. Hey, there's just a lot of programming, and men behind the scenes are like concerned. Yeah. See, you're laughing and you're smiling and you're shaking your head because you know it's true. And so that's just the men's side of it. A lot of us are going, hey, I don't think they understand that we personally don't think that's attractive.
Right? Yeah. We get into this conversation all the time because I'm in the rooms with women, right? And women actually fundamentally believe that this makes them more beautiful. And so there's a dissonance here, right? We're being sold from the top celebrities that we see all the time, the Kardashians, I don't even know who's famous because I don't follow that stuff, but the Kardashians and everybody else that you might follow, we see the big plumpy, juicy lips. We see like the plumped up, juicy face. We see the tiny, tiny waist and the curvy booty. We see all the things, right? The eyelashes, we see it and we're like, wow, men, our brain goes, they think that's beautiful because they are celebrities. So of course they're popular because men think they're beautiful. But in actuality, and we talk about this, we actually think it's women who are more leaning towards that narrative of, oh, I think that's beautiful. And because women have been told for so long that youth and beauty are the foundation of our worth, we look at plump and big and doe eyes like Disney. If you look at all Disney animations, doe-eyed, big doughy eyes, big lashes, big lips, skinny waist, big booty. So BBLs are popular now, but what was popular back then when we were all kids was Disney and our Barbies. And so we have been programmed and conditioned from a very young age to go, oh, here's how I have to look. And the truth is, like, I'm blessed genetically. I know that. I know I have 4 kids and I still look pretty good, right? However, I actually got to feel what this was like when I was pregnant. I've had 3 full-term pregnancies. And when I'm pregnant and I would walk around, like, let's say a shopping area. I remember we were in Australia on break from one of our workshops. And I was walking around and all the signage was these skinny women. And I remember going, oh, I don't see myself anywhere. I don't see myself anywhere. And I've always been at the advantage of seeing myself everywhere because I looked like them. I used to model. So I'm privileged. I know that. But when I was pregnant, I was like, I don't see myself anywhere. And instantly insecurity came through my body of like, oh, like, man, I look a little different right now. Oh, and I wasn't even aware of it until I saw those images. Now, I'm not someone that hangs out online a lot. We don't really watch TV. So I'm not inundating myself with images every day, but most people are, right? And so if your echo chamber is this is what women should look like, then you start going, I don't look like that. And you look in the mirror and you feel off, you feel different, you feel less than. And if you haven't done the work to cultivate that self-confidence and that self-assuredness of like, I know who the fuck I am. And I know my worth doesn't come in my beauty. It comes in my light. It comes in my brains. It comes in my personality. If you haven't done that work to really solidify that, the world will pour into you who you should and should not be. And it is so easy. And so I have so much compassion for women who believe that they need anything other than who they are to be beautiful and to be lovable. Because in my worldview, it's like, I have a daughter and, I got breast implants when I was 22 and I got them for work for modeling. Our agency was like, all the girls get them. You'll work more. I was like, okay. I had zero connection with my body at the time. So I didn't think twice. I have not wanted them in for a very long time because they don't feel like me. But the girl who got them was a girl who was disconnected from her body, disconnected from my value. I had just gone through a rape. And so I was like, fuck, I don't care about my body. Who cares? Like, I'm disassociated from it. Right. And so we have to look at the whole ecosystem of what a woman's swimming in because we make choices from that ecosystem. So I have compassion and I get that a lot of us, I thought I was making an empowered choice at 22, but I wasn't. But I didn't know that I wasn't until now as a mature woman.
But let me just tap on this real quick. This is why it's important that people speak out. People may even be really upset that I just said this or that you even asked the question or whatever you just said, right? But the truth is that until we start speaking out and presenting another option, then we will be programmed and conditioned by the narrative that the media wants us to see. And so Victoria's Secret and all the other things that have been put, porn and all that, I have so much compassion for everybody, but especially women. Women receive hundreds of millions of images saying this is what you're supposed to look like. But I just want you to hear from men. Again, if I had 50 friends here, maybe 3 tops would want that thing. And those 3, if you said, and would you marry her? They'd probably say no. And that's that to me. If you want to be a wife, if you want to be the type of person that somebody says, yes, that's who I want, I would say just do your best to make loving choices from as much consciousness as you possibly can. And that's across the board, right? Men have their own insecurities and they try to present even 6-pack abs and muscles and all that stuff.
Cars and money and watches.
It's another version of that. And again, you can still have all those things, but where you're doing it from, if you're doing it from emptiness, no matter how much contouring you do, you will hate yourself.
And I want to even let's broaden the spectrum because we're talking about things that you supplement, right? Eyelashes, the BBLs, the injections. Okay. But like, even like we said, going to the gym because you hate your body, you may look attractive, but the hatred you have for your body is what's not going to keep the man. Like you said, like what keeps us is not the BBL. The BBL may attract us, but it likely won't keep. Mm-hmm. Why? Why? We have to ask why. Well, the why is because underneath there's a woman that doesn't feel enough, and she's trying to externally solve for that enoughness. Maybe it's just at the gym. Like, let's say she's totally natural, but she's at the gym nonstop, or she deprives herself from food, or she, adjusts her personality and her way of being to be the type of woman that I think this man would want and this man would want. If you are not in your power as a woman, that's what's unattractive.
Right.
And that could be seen in a lot of different ways, whether it's the false eyelashes or the gym bod or whatever it is. And it's not to say that those women aren't in their power. I know a lot of women that choose to do those things that are in their power.
Yes.
But you have to know the context from which you're choosing those things.
Yep.
Because even jewelry, right?
Yeah.
Do I need jewelry? Do I need it? No. Do I like it? Yeah. So who are we to say what one woman likes and needs?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. And you guys both touched on this as men, as even the gym. So we can go to the gym and we can come from it in a way of lack scarcity. And there's like a steroid epidemic at this point because, especially because of social media, there's a bunch of huge guys glorifying steroids, and there's a lot of the youth actually taking it.
Wow.
Like I stay on that side of the internet a lot, actually.
I'm like, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's actually really bad. There's kids at 18 years old who's never seen the gym, who've never gone to the gym. They start taking steroids immediately.
Yep.
Wow.
They haven't even seen where their body can get to without it.
Yes.
Right.
So, but I bring this up because I already know I started at the gym from a place of lack.
Yeah.
I was always called, I grew up a vegetarian.
Yeah.
I didn't try meat till I was 21. And I was always made fun of how skinny I was.
Yeah.
Even in football, they're like, you'll never get big because you're a vegetarian. And at some point in my junior year of high school, I got tired of it.
Yeah.
I had an injury in basketball. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take weightlifting. I learned how to lift weights. And I think I was like 160 pounds, super skinny, maybe 155, really skinny, built like Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah.
I got to 200 pounds of muscle being a vegetarian to run away from that.
Right.
But at some point it shifted.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working out since I was 17.
Yeah.
I'm 33.
Yep.
I love it.
Yes.
It's a meditation for me.
Yeah.
But I don't know when it shifted.
Yeah. And that's my point, right? I think even going back to like, how does a woman like me attract a high value man? It's like, we all start somewhere. Most of us start unconsciously, whether it's on our quest to be enough, whether it's on our quest for love or our quest for success. Most of us start unconsciously. And so there's a lot of people that wait until they're fully ready. I have to be fully conscious before I start because I want to be in integrity. And the truth is, even we're unconscious right now, all of us, of the next level, right? And so we only can do the best we can with what we have available right now. And so, it started from lack for you, but it turned into a love affair, right? To take care of your body, to connect with your body, to have a moment of silence or whatever it is, right? And the same can be true for other things. Again, I got these at 22. I'm now 40. And after I'm done having kids in my 30s, I'm getting them out in a month, and I've wanted them out for years, but I couldn't because it wasn't the right time. So to each their own experience. If you start unconscious, that's okay. Like, don't shame yourself for that. Don't blame yourself for that. If you're hearing this right now and something's stirring in you of like, damn, okay, that kind of lands, then this is the beginning of consciousness for you, right? This is the beginning of conscious choice for you. And sometimes we don't have access to that because, again, circling all the way back, if we are in a nervous system that is in survival, we are making choices out of survival. My choice out of survival was like, fuck it, what's going to make me more money in my career right now? Oh, okay. fake boobs? Great, I'll put them in. Because I was so turned off from myself because of my rape. So I disassociated and put all that energy from my trauma into making money. Did it make me successful in my 20s? Yeah. I made way more money than most people I knew. I bought a place in New York City. I crushed. But from what place? Because then I got to 30 and I was like, it's not landing. It's not enough. This isn't it. And I got to taste that. And so wherever you're at on your journey, whenever you're ready, you'll hear it. And that's perfect. That's part of the human experience, in my opinion, is like we learn, and we keep bringing what's in unconscious into consciousness. And that's the game. And we're never done. Like there's no place we land at and we're like, oh, I'm fucking so conscious. Like, I am winning at life. Like I feel like I'm winning at life right now. And I'm also not blind to the fact that 10 years from now, I'm going to be like, wow, I'm so much more conscious of what was unconscious then.
Yeah. So you can't reach nirvana, huh? Now, you made me think of something that Preston said in the last podcast. He said at some point, and you guys were going through a bunch of issues together, he said that he was trying to be the biggest super dad ever.
Yeah.
And he was trying to do all the dishes, wake up twice a night for the kids, all that stuff. But where he was doing it from was the issue. He also said that you grew up in he grew up in a family that was all touchy-feely.
Yeah.
And there was a part of you that wasn't as receptive to that, right? At some point.
Yeah.
Was it because of your
family
past?
that was like that? Like that wasn't part of our MO.
Okay.
But a lot of things contributed to that in our dynamic in particular.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I had written down a question. It was because it's something that I think a lot of women can actually relate to. Hold on, just let me find this question.
No, find it. But I'll say this. What I was pointing to in that podcast was that I had demonized her, even though she grew up different than me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So her family sat at the dinner table and intellectually debated and did all that stuff. My family didn't talk about anything. We didn't even sit at a dinner table. But what I did get was a whole bunch of hugs and kisses and I'm proud of you and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I brought my stuff and said, hey, why aren't you filling this cup for me? This is what you're supposed to do because this is what I got.
Right.
And in relationship, we do that a lot.
Yeah. So like my version of that, how I demonized him was in my family, everybody was expected to show up and do stuff. We came from an immigrant family. Immigrant families very much have this context of everyone contributes. We're not going to celebrate you for it. It's just what you do. This is how you show your love in the family. Like I worked in my family's restaurant starting at 9 years old and it was just expected. I never got like, yay, you're doing such a great job. And so not that that's right, wrong, good or bad, but then I bring that into our marriage and I'm like, he's someone that loves appreciation. And in my family, we didn't do appreciation. It was just expected. And if you asked for appreciation, it was almost like, how dare you? This is your role in the family. You just do it because you love it, because this is how you contribute, because this is how you show up for each other, right? And so we have two different contexts, two different childhoods that we think are right, because that's all we know, right? Then we come into a relationship with each other and it's like, well, you're not doing it the way that I know is right. And then we start looking at each other and going, well, why are you doing that thing? And so I have my version of that for him. He had his version of that for me. And then we're missing each other because we're not creating our own version together. And that's when we really got out of the like crazy soup we were in that we were swimming in for a long time in our relationship. It was when we said, okay, you grew up how you grew up. I grew up how I grew up. It is very different. There's gifts and magic in how you grew up that I get to learn from. And same for me. But how do we want to create our household for each other and for our kids? What do you need that is a need that you actually desire? And what is a need that I actually desire as well? And like, can we be in devotion to each other enough to give each other that desire and that need? Whether we think it's necessary or not. That's what my partner, the person I love, says that they need to feel loved and appreciated. Well, can I be in devotion to that? And both of us had to like lean back on our own righteousness a little bit to find out like, oh, actually, I haven't been giving you the grace of that. I haven't been gifting you that. And that's when everything changed.
So you guys, this is so interesting because that dynamic happens so much.
So much.
And I actually relate more with you when it's like, this is your job, your duty.
Yeah.
But it can happen vice versa, male, female, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
How do you guys understood that you guys weren't seeing each other. You were aware of it.
Yeah.
After you get that awareness, how do you fix it? Like how is it when it happens, you give each other space? Do you stop does someone, is there like a safe word when you start to argue? Like
we do have a safe word. We do, but sometimes we'll just say, hey, I need a minute, because again, going back to the nervous system, foundation of everything.
Okay.
So if we're relating from survival, we're only going to relate from survival. If he's in his survival pattern of my needs aren't being met, she's not seeing me, she's not this, and my animal feels that, whether he's saying it or not, even if he's just walking in the room and my animal feels that, instantly my animal clicks online, I'm in survival, right? Now we have two animals in survival mode watching each other. What are they going to do next? Right? And then nothing good ever comes out of that, ever. Yeah. And we learned that the hard way. The deeper we got into nervous system work, the deeper we realized how dysregulated we were when we were coming to talk to each other most of the time. And so then it really became a conscious conversation of like, hey, we actually have to implement these tools for ourselves in our relational dynamic and catch ourselves in dysregulation and take a moment. And then actually get to the source, like what's under the thing, right? Yep. That was such a big thing for both of us because we both grew up putting our needs aside for everybody else. And so you put two people in a relationship that never actually stood for themselves and honored their needs, a lot of resentment builds. And so it was just a lot of messy conversations, a lot of learning in the game, a lot of trying shit on and failing, but learning.
Another thing, and this is just going to go to like biology 101 when it comes to humans, we are still animals. And there's a part of our brain, the oldest part of our brain is called the reptilian brain. And let's go back to East Africa. We're in caves, and there's a moment where you and I are walking through the bush and we hear the moment we hear that, our body sends a whole bunch of energy to our thighs so we can run, to our hands so we can fight. And we lose the executive function, the part of our brain that is like thoughtful and conscious and compassion. And we go into what we call conditioned tendencies to stay safe. So either if a hippopotamus or a saber-toothed tiger or my girlfriend comes out of those bushes, I'm either going to fight, I'm going to run. And flight may be I will just literally stop listening and check out and be gone, or I will literally slam the door and get away. I'm going to freeze and just go into like, which they call stonewalling, right? Or, and there's a new one that's been adapted for the human called appease or fawn, where I'll just go into some form of like, oh, yes, dear, or you're right.
People-pleasing, acquiescing, whatever you need, whatever stops the conflict. And that's a learned behavior, not a biological response.
Correct. So that is true for all humans, unless you are a psychopath or you have something literally cut off from you. Therefore, if I know that about us, then I have to ask myself, what is my conditioned tendency? What is the one that I go to the most? Oh, I saw my mom and dad fighting always as a kid. That's interesting. Because I used to fight as a kid too. Anytime somebody backed me into a corner, what did I do? I didn't run. What did my mom used to tell me and my dad? If somebody hits you, you hit him back 10 times harder and you don't come home until you've done it. So now that's all programmed into my conscious mind and my nervous system. And so when she says, hey, I feel like you did X, now I'm in that reptilian brain and we're fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. So some of the biggest work we both did was becoming educated on what was actually happening in our bodies. One more piece. All humans have something called a threshold of tolerance. It's when you are well rested.
Good nutrition, good gut health.
All of it, right?
All of it matters.
You drinking your water. you're healthy, when you're well rested and you have all that stuff, your threshold of tolerance is really big. When stressors and things from outside and a lot of life starts to happen, the threshold gets smaller and smaller if you are not filling up your cup. And so what humans do is we get all the traffic and all the stress from the emails and the kids and this and that, and hour by hour, minute by minute, that threshold of tolerance gets thinner and thinner unless you go plug up, right? It's like an iPhone. If you don't plug that thing up, the battery will go out. And when the threshold gets low, that's when the fight, flight, freeze, and appease comes out, and it goes towards who's closest to you.
Yeah.
That's why we end up hurting people that we love the most, even though we consciously don't want to hurt them.
Right.
But they're a recipient of all of the anger and sadness and all the other stuff I wasn't willing to feel during the day.
Yeah. And
Right.
the craziest thing is most of us, because we live in a world that values work and productivity and more, we aren't tending to the emotional body and clearing that channel to clean and build out a stronger window of tolerance that when we come home, we're dysregulated. When we wake up, we're dysregulated. And so we are all running on empty. It's why, again, burnout is at its heights right now, because we are living in a culture of dysregulation. That's why people online are so quick to fight. They're so quick to engage and assert themselves because we aren't in our conscious mind. We're not in the highest possibility of what it means to be human. We're not connected to our heart. If we're not connected to our heart, we are in survival. And when our heart and our learning brain are connected and open, we're in coherence. And coherence creates magic. That's when you're like, oh, I thought of a person and they called me. Yes, you're in the field. You're playing in the field. That's when we magnetize to us everything that we're like, how is that so? How did I just sign a $20,000 client? How'd that happen? Because you're in the field. You're in coherence. You're regulated. Your heart's open. Your brain's online. You're thinking of new ideas. Like if you're ever saying like, man, I'm just getting downloads after downloads, you're in the field. And we all can tap into that. That's not a unique quality to any one person. It's a unique quality to a body that's safe. And that's why the work we do is foundational. And to us, it's the missing link in all of personal development, because you can develop the brain to the highest capacity. But if it's in a survival body, good luck. Good luck.
Wow. Yeah, I received that 100%. Okay. I definitely understand in relationships when we're communicating with each other, male, female, there's points where our reptilian brain taps in and we're not, it's all instinct. We're not even thinking.
Our brains are offline.
Right. Yeah. So you guys figured that out.
Yeah.
If for someone who's receiving what you're saying, they understand it, they're aware of it, but they have a partner who has absolutely no idea.
Yes.
How does that partner help their partner get on the same page?
All right, let me start this one. So one of the things we teach and I've been supporting people with is whoever is the most resourced, it's their job to serve, support their partner, themselves first, but their partner in such a way that they do become regulated. We co-regulate each other. Co-regulation means essentially we become, if I'm in a really good space and I take that and I'm breathing and I'm really being with Alexi, she will then regulate, down-regulate to where I am, or up-regulate to where I am.
Yeah, because sometimes I can go into disassociate, freeze, and check out. And so he can bring me back by giving energy to me and pouring into me, and it mobilizes my system up.
Yes. So here it goes. I'm going to go philosophy first.
Okay.
So my philosophy on all of this is, out of 8 billion people, I get the opportunity, the unique opportunity to help my wife heal her nervous system. Out of 8 billion people, I'm the one person who gets to love her in such a way that whatever happened to her in her childhood, whatever happened to her when she was raped, whatever happened to her when anything went down in her life, I get to be the one person who can love her in such a way that she gets to feel like herself. And so with that philosophy, right, and I'm going to take it one step deeper. Besides her, besides myself, my kids are the greatest gift I've ever been given. Like, they blow me away. I get emotional thinking about them all the time. And one of the things that I've really been sitting in is, yes, I'm grateful that Alexi carried those children, right? She carried twins. She carried our other two. But the gratitude doesn't stop there. Because as a man, I don't know what it feels like. She's had a period since 13 years old. Since 13, she's been enduring pain and embarrassment and all kinds of stuff so that we could have these beautiful kids. And so for me, it is an honor. This is what I want people to hear. It's an honor for me to be the one, whether she's doing that work or not, to help her feel loved and nurtured and supported and seen. And I think so many people we can be so, I got to get mines, right? There's a lot of energy around, well, you want that from me, you do it first. And to me, one of the best ways to heal a relationship is to take all of that and say, you know what? Whether I get it back or not, I'm going to figure out what this person, because whatever God created us, it placed this person on my path. And so I'm going to trust whatever that thing is and figure out what my partner needs to feel safe, because everything comes down to safety. Yeah. When we were at the edge of divorce for years, for 7 years, we were fighting. She didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe.
And it was low level though. Catch. It's not that we were fighting all the time. It's that when we did fight, it was like, oh, this isn't a safe space. We had high highs during those 7 years.
So many amazing things. We traveled the world. We did workshops. We did all kinds of stuff.
Crushed life. So from the outside, even to us, we're like, things are good. But what we didn't catch was the subtlety of when things weren't good in here. I'll speak for me. I didn't feel safe to bring it to him. And he didn't feel safe to bring it to me when he had something that was difficult to talk about. And that breeds an environment of I'm not safe. And an environment of I'm not safe kicks in survival, which breeds what we talked about. Now we're just moving from like hypervigilance. Wait, I got to watch you. What are you doing? What's that? What's that? And that creates more problems. And so I think the modern couple can really relate to that. And what he's speaking to is so beautiful. And that came after not being that for each other. Like what he's speaking to of like, it's an honor to serve. It's an honor to co-regulate you. It's an honor to show up. Neither of us were doing that for years.
I was doing it, but I was doing it hoping that it would be reciprocated. So it was an exchange. It was hey, I'll trade you this love if you send the love back, because I don't feel whole myself. So I need you to complete me. So I'm going to do everything that a good Christian boy will do, right? And what, the idea of a good husband is, in hopes that you fulfill my needs.
And that exchange, anyone, but especially women, we can feel that. And that we can't trust that. It doesn't feel safe because it's like, you don't actually want to do this. It's you want me to do something back. And so again, that come from is so important. And I had my version of that. And so learning how to actually be with each other and getting to that point of devotion to each other's systems. So going back to your question, if someone's listening to this and like, oh, I get this, but my partner will not listen to this. They're not into it. They'll think this is weird. It is your job to regulate yourself first. Get yourself back to safety. So you're not looking at your partner in their survival pattern and you're going into survival. Because if you can hold safety in the face of somebody else's survival pattern, you can bring them back to their own safety.
Because someone has to be the adult in the room. right? And most people think, because they see this person in this adult body and they go, oh, you should be able to deal with this. What they're not understanding is that, yes, that person is in an adult body, but what you're working with is the 9-year-old and the 7-year-old and the 13-year-old throwing a tantrum. And so what does the 9-year-old and the 7-year-old really need? Right? When our kids are acting out, what they really need is a hug. What they really need is compassion. What they really need is firm boundaries with love.
Yeah.
Firm boundaries with love. Hey, that doesn't work for me. Hey, that doesn't work for me. And I see you. I love you. I'm here. What do you actually need? I promise you I'm here. I'm not going to abandon you. It's such a game changer when somebody has the balls, and I mean ovaries and balls, to stand up and stand in and in proxy for all the other people that hurt your partner and say, hey, I'm here though. I got you.
Yeah.
What's really going on? That's such a big thing, man.
It's huge. And it speaks to this phrase that is spoken about in the emotional intelligence world, where you connect before you correct. And a lot of us are correcting before we connect. We're correcting in hopes of connection. We're like, hey, well, you need to do it this way and da, 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 da. And then what we really want underneath that is actually love. But we're correcting, trying to get the love, not realizing that if we start with love, we can then actually both be available for a powerful conversation. But if we're not starting from love, we're just going to be in our righteous correction back and forth based on whose version of reality we're fighting for. So connection before correction is really the game changer.
And then one more piece, and I'm going to use my dad for this example. God bless his beautiful soul. Bids for love.
Yeah.
So couples will be in it. They'll be fighting. And one of them usually will throw a bid for love. And the couples that stay together and have thriving relationships are the ones who take that bid, no matter what it is, and build on it. So an example would be my father and I hadn't spoken for years. We hadn't spoken for years. And then one day he called me and he said, hey, how about them Lakers? And for me, I'm like, in my conscious mind, I'm like, bro, we ain't talked for years and you gonna ask me about the Lakers? But the truth was that was my dad's way of saying, I'm sorry. That was a bid for love. So you know what I did? I said, man, Kobe is beasting right now. You been watching it? He was like, yeah. He's like, I think he needs a new center though. And we're talking about basketball, but what we're really talking about is, son, I miss you. Daddy, I miss you. That. Couples that take any of that. Like, I'm gonna give you a real vulnerable example. We've been fighting before and we were fighting through text, right? Sometimes it would get really loud and all the things, and one of us slams the door and walks off and X, Y, and Z, and then now we're fighting through text. And there's been moments where she'll say something and it's veiled, it's inside of the text will say something that my personality is like, that's a sting, that's a jab. She's still trying to get me. But inside of it is something like, and like, do you even really want to still be with me? And I could see that and go, what are you even talking about? Right? I can take it at face value. What do you mean? Do I want to be with you? I'm here. We're married. We got kids. What do you mean? But the part of me that understands bids, right? Like this is a hook. What she's really saying inside of that is like, but do you love me? And so I have a choice in that. Do I fight the other stuff or do I catch what's happening in the middle? And if I catch what's happening, and hear me, I've messed this up 1,000,000 times. 1,000,000 times. I'd say the last year I've done really good.
Yeah.
At just really catching. And I've spoken about this. I do my best not to listen to her anymore. Right? Because when I listen, I'm listening from the analytical mind and I'm trying to like piece apart what she said and defend it and all that stuff. And like anytime something comes up, I go straight into what does my woman need? How can I be emotional containment for her? Regardless of whether it's something I did. I do stupid stuff. Right? We're still going to make mistakes. And my first thought is not about me anymore. It's about what does she actually need? And I think that is one of the best bridges, especially any man can build, but anybody in relationship.
Yeah, I'll just speak from the woman receiving that. Like, I know a lot of women, because again, I work with women. A lot of women who have been married for a long time, have kids, feel really disconnected from their sexuality in their partnership. And it's because of years of resentments and years of not feeling safe emotionally. And truthfully, emotional containment, what he's talking about, that is like the gateway to our libido coming back online for our man. And so men often are complaining, man, I wish we would have more sex. I wish we would have more intimacy. I wish we were more connected. But that's a symptom of a lack of emotional safety. And that doesn't disregard anything that she's doing, right? Because often her lack of radiance, her lack of being in her aliveness is creating that resentment and disconnection. So it's a two-way street. But that is such a game changer for women, especially women who are punishing themselves and saying, what's wrong with me? Why don't I feel this way anymore? And it's often a symptom of a lack of safety in the relationship that both parties are responsible for. But if your man can step in and hold that for you so that you can find your own safety within that, that is like the key to unlock libido in long-term relationships. And a lot of women don't know that. And I feel like they need to hear that.
I'm just taking it all in.
Yeah.
So you guys definitely seem like you've done a lot of work. And we love to put everyone on a pedestal.
Yeah.
How are y'all human?
Oh.
I mean, I'm not, bro. I'm playing at another level at this point.
You know what I mean? It just like it seems like you guys have a lot of the answers. Now, like how do you fall short?
Yeah, I think here's the thing. I think it seems like we have a lot of the answers because we're okay with our humanness. And I think that's what shifted for me personally is, you know, I'm human just like everybody else. I've got my insecurities. I've got my fears. I've had my cry on the bathroom floor moments many a times. I get tired. I get pushed to my edge. You know, all of it. But I don't resist my humanness anymore. Like I'm very much okay with the fact that I am a human that experiences waves of emotionality. And it makes sense to me now that I understand my biology and I understand where my biology got patterned in my childhood. So I just have a different relationship with my humanness. And because I'm in ownership of it, that's why it feels like I got all the answers. Because the answer is no matter what happens, I know I have me. No matter what happens, I'm not going to judge the emotionality that comes through. I'm not going to judge the wave of unconsciousness that I catch. I'm not going to judge my fight, flight, freeze, or appease. I'm going to be with it. And that's, again, the work we teach is we teach people how to remember to be with their humanness differently. It's not that life changes. Life is going to keep lifing and keep doing what it does, but we can work ourselves to the point of relating to life differently because we relate to ourselves differently. And I think we are in an epidemic of punishing ourselves for not being there yet, not being enough yet, not being da-da-da-da. I deal with my own not enoughness, right? We all do. If we're human, there's an aspect of our humanness that is always going to want more. And if there's more on the table, there's always going to be lack on another table, right? Otherwise, more doesn't exist. So I think being with our humanness more powerfully and not being in resistance to it, but welcoming it in and like loving those parts of ourselves, it just creates a different world. Same reality, but different relationship with that reality, which creates a different experience for me. So I would just love to say right now, like, I know more is coming. I know I'm going to have more insecurity. I know I'm going to have more moments of dissonance in my partnership. I know I'm going to have more moments where I'm crying on a bathroom floor. Why? Because nobody gets out of that. Nobody. But I just know that the woman that I have built myself to be in the body that I have consciously built to hold more, to build out that window of tolerance, she can be with all of that in her dignity and her power.
I love that. And I love how with you guys, it always starts with self. And then from there, you know, you radiate outwardly.
Yep.
This is a question for me. So you guys are in business together.
Oh yeah.
So you're raising kids together. You're always around each other.
Yeah.
And it's really tough to do that.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, What's the secret? Like, how are you guys able to be around each other so much without clawing each other's eyes out, you know? Or do you do that?
I can jump on that real quick. We're able to be around each other so much because we actually like each other. Like we're actually like this is my homie, this is my best friend, right? Like we go so hard on so many different things. Our values are so aligned. Like when we met, I was dating somebody openly, like I wasn't exclusive with him, but dating somebody who was perfect on paper. And I wouldn't commit to this dude because there just wasn't something that was landing, right? And it was a values problem. Like we had a lot of values, a great dude, but we had a lot of values that weren't aligned. When I met him, it's not that he was perfect on paper, but our values were like just boom, perfect click. And those values created a world where we could dance and play together, even in challenging seasons. That's why I clarify that 7 years where we had our hardest fights, we also had the best time. You know, like traveling with somebody, like we've been through hurricanes together. We've been through some like crazy shit together, right? Like traveling on buses and, you know, developing countries and going through breakdowns and all sorts of crazy stuff, accidents in Costa Rica in a bus in Panama, like crazy stuff that most people would buckle and fold under. But because we like each other, we enjoy each other's company. Like our first trip, we went to Cabo and there was a massive hurricane. The day the next day after we landed, we had no power, no water, no nothing, couldn't get out.
The hotel's roof ripped off and it was raining into our room, flooded into the room, like the whole thing.
And so for 4 days, we're stuck. We actually ended up getting airlifted out by the military.
Wow.
But for 4 days, we had the best time. Like we were like making videos, we were reading books, we were meditating, we were going for walks and people watching. We were helping people
they
like
were
clean out the rooms.
There was all kind of stuff happening.
Like, and I remember having this moment like, yes, like this is my kind of dude. Right? He's not freaking out. Like he's making the best of it. And that's what type of people we are. And so to be in a lot of life, we have a lot of life that we hold together, but I think it works because we actually like each other and enjoy each other's company.
You guys, you said that you guys share a lot of the same values, and the person you were dating before, you guys weren't in alignment in the values.
Yeah.
So do you think it's not possible to make something work if your values don't align?
I think it can if you're willing to accept and celebrate those things. Because there are places where our values don't align.
That's true.
There's a whole bunch of them. But we accept and celebrate those things.
And we allow each other to influence. Like I allow him to influence me and he allows me to influence
I'll give you an example, right? So let's say we pull up to a red light and then there's a sign up there that says only turn right on green arrow. If there's no cars coming, I'm turning. For her, she's like, hey, the sign says don't do that. Hey, the sign. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm turning.
Rule breaker, rule follower.
Exactly. So our values aren't aligned in that. I will just do what I want to do. Right. And so we laugh at that though. Right. Like last night we were driving home and I had the signal on, and she gets so annoyed when I have the signal on for too long. And she was like, hey, your signal. Right. And it's just funny. I'm like, yep. This is us. This is the game we play, and we celebrate it instead of getting mad at each other, and we allow each other to be influenced by each other. I'm a Leo in astrology, and usually Leos are big picture, not much detail, right? We're like, I got the whole thing, but not the details. And she's a Virgo. She's all the little details. And so initially, especially in the beginning, we would fight about stuff like that. Where one of our biggest fights in the beginning was over a kitchen towel and how it was folded. And I was like, yo, you're not my mom. You don't get to tell me how I fold this towel. And she's like, if I'm washing the dishes, I do get to tell you.
Because I'm like, it's utility for me. I need it right here and I need it to be open so I can dry my hands in the middle of doing the thing. And if I'm doing the thing, I need it for utility. So we get into this whole argument, but the truth is that came into our business too.
Yes.
And so we actually had to look at strengths and points of development, right? For both of us. We both have incredible strengths when it comes to business, right? Incredible strengths. It's why our workshop is so powerful because we both bring a different sauce into the mix so there's more flavor to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we got to own our sauce. And for the first chapter of our business relationship, we were both trying to like have all the sauce. We were trying to be like the all-in-one sauce.
Yep.
And that didn't work because then there was like a little competition in there. Correct. And like, well, that's my thing and da-da-da. And then we just said, wait. What's your sauce?
Yep.
Okay. What's my sauce? Okay. Let's just fully own our sauce and then develop and learn from each other's sauce.
Yep.
Like, ooh, I like that flavor. What seasoning are you using in that sauce? I'm gonna use some of that seasoning in mine.
I'm gonna take this even deeper for those of you with children, right? Like we grew up differently. I got whoopings. I got my ass whooped, right? In the Black community, you do something off, you getting your ass handed to you with a belt or something, right? That's not necessarily how her culture is. And so even raising kids, we have to go, okay, well, what's our vision for this? How do we want to do this? And I'll do a little side pocket. I'm a really good dad, like extremely loving, extremely present and on it and with them. I kiss them. I kiss those kids today, at least 40 times. And we're still in the morning time, right? And yet, right now, she is King Kong and I am a small fry. I don't look at that and go, how do I compete to get more attention from the kids? I just go, hey, this is my role right now. Mm-hmm. I'm daddy. I hold the space and I love on these kids. And mommy is God for them right now. And as it should be. And I also know that that's going to shift.
Yeah.
And so I accept and celebrate the role that I'm in right now, knowing that another role will come. And there'll be a point where daddy is God and they need and want and desire to be around me all the time. And so what you should be hearing in this is that we're really good at teamwork. Yeah. We're really good at shared vision. We're really good at understanding that as a rising tide lifts all boats. And so if the tide lifts this one, it lifts these ones too. Yeah. And so we're lifting together. And in doing so, it sort of blesses our entire world, right? Yeah. When we met, one more piece, when we met, I was a surf instructor. I wasn't making a bunch of money or anything like that. But I allowed myself, one, to be influenced by her because she was on it. Two, I had a vision for my life. And going back to the high value man thing, a lot of people want the finished product. I wasn't a finished product when we met.
No, he was not good on paper, right? Mm-hmm. Like a lot of women are like, oh, he's not good on paper. He wasn't good on paper. Attractive guy. He had all this stuff, but he didn't tick the box of like money and wealth and he's arrived and da-da-da. But and I get this question asked to me a lot, like, Preston moved back in with his mom when you met him. And that's true, right? What made you say yes to a man like that? It's like, I believed in him. I saw him. I saw how much he saw himself. I'm going to make that distinction because a lot of women will see the potential of a man, but if he doesn't see it in himself, that is a project. He was not a project. He was a man who knew he was on a mission. He was just in a chapter and he was figuring some shit out, but he knew who he was. And I saw that he knew who he was and I saw who he was. So I'm like, this is a done deal. You just need some support. He didn't grow up in a family of entrepreneurs like I did.
Nope.
I grew up with business in my bones. I had my first business, before I was 10. And he was the first entrepreneur in his family. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of women are waiting for the finished product and you're missing a really good man who knows who he is, but he just needs support. And I'll say this too. A lot of men are waiting to build their kingdom before they have their woman. A really good woman will support you in building that kingdom. And I think that is something that we have to hear more of because, a lot of people see the finished product and they're like, oh yeah, well that makes sense. It's like, yeah, but you didn't see the before. You didn't see the story that got us here. And a lot of times we have to take a leap of faith, but if we trust ourselves and we trust in the other person, that leap of faith is grounded.
I'm just letting y'all loose. Cause like, I feel like a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Because like when you're saying that, like not picking a man, like everyone's looking for a finished product.
Yeah.
I receive it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've also felt like I need to be a finished product. And I know a lot of men feel that way.
Yeah.
So,
But
The way you guys-
truthfully, the right woman will inspire the shit out of a man to build a bigger kingdom than he would have built alone.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is a question for either of you or both. So I'm a 90s baby, so I got hit as a kid. I mean, you brought this up. You got hit. What are your thoughts about disciplining your kids with spankings or things of that nature?
Yeah, we're a no for hitting them, but a yes for making sure that they understand that there are boundaries and things that will be okay and things that won't be okay. So, for example, we've had a few times already where I will hold one of our children, right, who's posing a threat to everybody else, or threatening to hit their sister or brother. I will grab that child and hold them to my chest and say, "Hey, no, that's not what we're doing here." And if it keeps heightening, we will figure it out. But I'm a no for just hitting a kid. That I think it's outdated, and a lot of times people do that because they're upset. And it doesn't have the actual value that it didn't work. It didn't work on us. It made me afraid of my parents, and therefore I hid things from them. I was not open with my mom or my dad because I knew that there was a threat of violence.
Yeah, I'll add to that. All behavior is communication, and that goes for adults too, right? Adults and children. So if there's a behavioral outburst, your child is trying to communicate something. They might be overstimulated. They might be in their reptilian brain. They might be tired, hungry. They might be frustrated. They might need more love or attention. So getting them regulated and like meeting them at that co-regulative state, because it is our job to regulate our children until the age of 7. Their nervous systems are not developed until the age of 7, and they will develop based on the reflection that we give them. So we have to do our work to stay in our safety so that we can bring them to safety when they're dysregulated. Once they're in safety, then we can have a conversation. What do you need, baby? Let's talk. What's going on? They cannot have that conversation when the behavior is there.
Correct. I'll give you an example. This is many months back. Alexi was off doing something. She was leading something. It was just me with the kids in the room, and they were hyped. And it's like 10 at night. And I'm like, bro, I put y'all down at 7:30 and they are in here partying, right? So I come in and I say, hey, this is the last time I'm gonna tell y'all, everybody lay down. And our son Zai is like, no, I'm not laying down. And I was like, buddy, lay down. And he was like, no, I'm not laying down. So I said, okay, there's gonna be consequences. He did it again. I grabbed him and I laid him down. He starts screaming and kicking. He's throwing his hands. He's almost hitting his brother. It's turning into this whole thing. And so I pick him up. I throw him over my shoulder and I take him out into the nighttime. The moment we get outside, he's like, oh, it's coyotes out here, right? And instantly, right? And catch this. I did it on purpose because I understood that sometimes the best thing we could do is change the environment, right? And not feed the beast. And so I changed his perspective and his environment by placing him outside. And I didn't chastise or do anything at that point. All I did was put him in the grass and hug him. And he instantly started regulating. First it was like, what are we, take me now, take me in. And he just folded just into my arms. And then I let him go. And say, hey, buddy, we're not going back in until you understand that it's time to go night-night. Do you understand that? Yes. Okay. Do you understand Daddy loves you? Yes. Okay, then we're going inside now. I took him inside. He laid his ass down and went straight to sleep.
Wow. So it just takes patience.
Yeah.
Patience, and we have different roles, right?
Yeah.
I'm the dad, not the mom. And while I do provide nurture and all of that stuff, one of my jobs is to provide containment. And so if I can run over dad, if I can just do whatever I want, if I can hit mommy or X, Y, and Z, and daddy doesn't do anything, we're setting our kids up for failure. Yeah. And that won't happen in our household.
I've actually heard you talk about this on your profile. Why do you guys think play is so important as adults?
So play is so important because when we are in play, we are playing in unknown. When we are in unknown space, out of our comfort zone, out of normal routine, that's where play happens. that's where new neural connections and neural pathways are being created. So all the research points to, if you want to learn, you've got to be having fun. You've got to be playing. That's why children learn so much and grow so many neural connections when they're just playing, when they're just exploring the world, when they're uncovering new things, when they're being in the unknown and making new things known. It keeps our brain young and sharp. So not only does it make life more enjoyable, but you're also like tapping into your superpowers of your brain and expanding your capacity to learn and just be more in your brilliance and creativity.
Real talk. And I would just add that the more we play, the more fun we have. The more fun we have, the better we feel. And the better we feel, we get to offer that vibration to our friends, family, our work, everything. It just bleeds into everything. So play is important because it helps us feel good.
Yeah.
Period.
Can I just add something to that too? It's something that we talk about a lot. And it came up this past weekend. A lot of people are so busy building the life that they want that they miss the life that they have. And again, it's this epidemic of the world that we're in where it's like, well, I'll have fun once I finish that thing. I'll have fun once I get the money. I'll have fun once I find my partner. And the invitation is your life is right now. Like, don't miss that you have the gift of a heartbeat and blood in your body and breath in your body. Like, use this life to live it. Don't just get on the hamster wheel doing what you think you have to do to survive. Live your life, have fun, play, engage, be alive. Don't just be living. And the aliveness, I think, is a key piece that a lot of people are missing. And we hunt for it in these like quick highs of like more information. Oh, that makes me feel alive. Sex. Oh, that makes me feel alive. Youth. Oh, that makes me feel alive. And we find all these pseudo aliveness. But when we have it from within, we get addicted to that feeling instead. And then we start to cultivate more of that. And it just makes for a much better quality of life.
Love that answer. Do you worry about social media and how it could affect your kids?
I do. Truthfully, I think about it a lot. I'm not on social that much.
Okay.
I share and create. I've taken long breaks, lots of them, from social media. I don't consume a lot, and I do, especially with AI now, I do have concern. You know, I think there's a lot about AI that we don't quite understand its capabilities yet, but just from what I'm hearing, I don't like the idea of our kids being so available online, and they're such a part of our lives. You know, we're around our kids all the time. And so it's a challenging line that I think we're learning how to walk every day.
Yeah, and I think like even as adults, we don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So it's like, as parents, I know it has to be scary. You know, like the unrealistic beauty standards, again, we talked about the BBLs, the dopamine hits from swiping.
Here's what I'll say.
Okay.
I'm not worried because there are kids, and both of us are conscious enough and understand psychology enough to be able to show them that consuming in this way is harmful. Like, I'll give you an example. My dad caught me smoking weed when I was 11 years old. And instead of giving me a whooping or putting me on punishment, he said, I'm going to give you 24 hours to think about everybody you know who smokes weed. And in 24 hours, we're going to talk about it. And you tell me if you want their lives. Because if you do what they do, you're going to have what they have. I came back 24 hours later and I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. He was like, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be like Michael Jordan. Cool. Michael Jordan doesn't smoke weed. He practices. I said, thank you. And he said, one more thing. You're a leader. And you're such a leader that if everybody is going left, but something in you says, I have to go right, you will do it anyway. He poured into me. He showed me. He gave me a portal, an opening to choose something other than what everybody else was. He told me who I was. He poured into me in such a way that when follower things came up, yeah, I did some of them, but a lot I didn't. A lot I said, oh, no, man, that's what the regular people do. And if I do regular people stuff, I'm going to have a regular people life. I'm going to end up in jail like the homies down the street. Fuck that. We're gonna talk to our kids the same way.
Yeah,
We
we
say, hey,
already do.
yeah.
And I think I misunderstood the question. I thought sharing our kids on social media or having them be on social media.
Oh no, just what social media is going to do to their.
We're not letting them on
Yeah.
it, first of all.
Yeah.
And
They're not on it. Our kids are
Okay.
young. But just to give a real time example, like we're not a restrictive household, right?
Yeah.
Like we do have time for iPads. We do have time for TV. We have treats. We have all that stuff, right? And the reason we do that is because if we just deprive them of something, they don't actually learn how to be with it. They don't have a learned behavior of how to regulate and take time with things, right? So for instance, our oldest, Kingston, he's 6 years old. He'll opt out of treat time because he's like, no, I want to be healthy.
that he does it all the time.
And why? Because we taught him that
Yes.
you only have one body. Your body is your home. Your spirit animates the body. But it's your job to take care of the body that your spirit is living in, because your spirit wants to do all these things.
Correct.
And if you don't have a healthy body, you're not drinking enough water, you're not eating healthy food, you're eating a lot of sugar, your body's not going to be able to do all the things spirit wants to do. And so he's like, well, I want to do all the things that my spirit wants to do. So he gets it. He gets the concept of choice.
Even the 4-year-old, Zai, this morning asked for green juice.
That's right.
Not soda, not other stuff.
That's
not
right.
cookies.
He
He
loves
asked
his
for
green juice.
green juice.
Yes.
And so there's a way, like a lot of parents will say, no, you can't have this, or don't look at that, or X, Y, and Z. We're more of the our philosophy is we will inform them.
We'll give them options.
Look, this is, you go down this route and you keep going down this route. This is what it'll look like.
And also, something really big that I think is key for most behavioral change, you have to have a felt experience to actually want to change the behavior. So for instance, Zai, he's our cookie man, right? He loves the treats. He loves the cookies. He also loves his green juice. But sometimes he'll overdo it. And he'll say, oh, my tummy hurts. It's like, oh, so what are you noticing about what you just ate? Oh, well, I probably had too many cookies. Okay, so what are you learning for next time? Well, next time I'll only have one and not two. I think that's a great idea. I think your body will like that. So he's learning how to be an autonomous young man. He's only 4, but he's learning how to make conscious decisions for himself and feel empowered to make choices for himself that benefit him in the long run.
So good.
But we have to teach the breadth of that, right? Like we have to go into here's what this choice might mean. And you get to make it for yourself, but let's reflect on what that means for you.
Yep.
I love that. I love that. This question is from, actually, I met him at I didn't meet him. He followed me afterwards. But he was at that event at John's house. Matt Backenstedt. You didn't know him? Oh, okay. I thought you did.
Maybe
He doesn't. Backenstedt. I'm butchering the name, but what are the top 3 most critical areas of men's work in y'all's opinion?
I think whether it's men's work or women's work, it's actual sovereignty, right? We throw that word around, but what does it really mean to be a sovereign being? What does it really mean to notice where these choices are coming from? We say often you can't disown that which you have never owned. And a lot of times people are living inside of this pseudo choice, right? Like I got super high on mushrooms once, and I went to the mall, and I was walking through the mall, and they had this area where all these, it was water, and the water was shooting up in the air. And I looked over the banister, and there was all these koi fish. And I had this moment where I was like, these koi fish think they have choice, but their choice is limited to the context of this pond that's in the middle of the mall. And then I pulled back out and I was like, but so do we. I think I have choice when I go decide whether I'm getting the Nikes or the Adidas. But I've been fed a context as to why I think I even need the Nikes or the Adidas. And so I'm not actually sovereign as I think I am. I'm choosing based off of a menu that was handed to me. So to me, when it comes to men's work or women's work or any kind of work, our job is to take and snatch our power back. Is to say, hey, okay, I got this from my mom, and her mom. I got my concept of money from my dad, his dad, and his dad. What do I want that to be? What do I choose in this? Do I actually desire and need this Oreo? Or is this the part of me that's trying to get high on something so I feel good again? What am I trying to avoid by going to these cookies? What am I trying to avoid by getting this lotion and jacking off the porn? What am I trying to avoid by picking a fight with my partner? That, to me, the whole thing is about real sovereignty, actual choice.
Yes, double down to that. Mic drop, right?
Mic drop,
The only thing I'll add to that that comes before actual choice is a safe body. A regulated, safe nervous system, a body that has awareness and is connected to the mind. Most of us are walking around as heads, brains, walking around thinking we have conscious choice. We don't. 80% of all of your behavior is predicated from your body and your biology. And so if you really want to be empowered in your sovereignty, you got to get the body on board.
So a follow up. So someone's listening in the audience and they're receiving this. They intellectually understand it. They understand it in their mind. Where do they start to make that change?
Awareness proceeds choice. So literally start with right where you are. Like, hey, did I choose this chair? Or did I get this chair because I thought that's how Black people should have these kind of chairs? Did I want these braids, or did I get this kind of haircut because I saw OBJ have it and women like OBJ, so then I get the same haircut, right? Just like scanning like everything that's occurring. Is this because I love my life and the art of it, or because I'm trying to avoid being a nobody?
Yeah, that's real. That's so real. Do you guys ever run into any issues as an interracial couple? Like we talked about it very briefly.
Yeah, we have here and there. I would say, we've traveled the world together.
Yeah.
Traditionally, my culture, I'm Greek. My culture isn't really about it. But my family is amazing. So we don't have any issues in my family. And we have been to Greece many times and we're always welcomed and embraced. I would say the biggest place we feel it is in Australia and have felt it. There is definitely, it's not everywhere, but there's definitely a divide within their own native people. Like the Aboriginal people of Australia are treated very poorly. And there is definitely a divide of their Black and white. And so I think that racism is more alive there and prevalent. It's still alive here, but it's not as obvious. It's very obvious there.
I appreciate you saying that. And that's from the inside of your relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are there any things that because of your upbringing,
yes.
you growing up Black, you growing up, you said Greek?
Greek, yeah.
Has there been places where you haven't understood each other?
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
I mean, just any human A and human B, right? Like you're not going to understand each other.
Yes.
And then you add, there's all these different sites of shaping, right? So we're shaped as the human, the man sitting here, the man sitting here, the woman sitting here. We have been shaped by our world. And we're shaped first by our caregivers, then by school and that like little environment outside, our neighborhood, our community we grow up in, and then the culture with which that community exists in and everything that culture is up against and not up against. And so we can't be outside of our shaping. So there is a lot that I will never understand about his world because I didn't grow up in it, right? But I can do my best to learn and learn how that affects his shape and learn how to be with that shape powerfully and vice versa. And so I think that goes for racial differences, but it goes for man, woman. Like there's so much difference around how we grew up as men and how we grew up as women, like different programming, different indoctrination, different shoulds, different have tos. And so it's a game of unpacking all the programming that we came under, whether it's cultural, race, gender, middle class, entrepreneur, hard worker, immigrant family, or, come up in LA and like never going back to the hood that you grew up in with your family. And so all of it matters and all of it shapes us. And if we love somebody, we learn about their shaping.
Yep. And I'll just add, there's a lot she never has to see. And I've pointed it out a few times. Whenever we're anywhere where there's a bunch of white dudes who are drinking, and they see her, she doesn't see their reaction to seeing me. But I do, because I'm because I've come in this beautiful Afro amazing skin suit, I've had to and been blessed to create a certain level of awareness, situational awareness as the minority in this country. And so there have been many times, and even in the YouTube comments, I remember back in the day, we'd get she'd get comments on hers like, "Oh, you're a bottom feeder," and things like that. It's like,
and he'd get comments on his, "Oh yeah, you're a sellout because you're with a white woman," and so we've heard it for sure.
But yeah, culturally, what's interesting about her is she was signed to Murder Inc. And I
have a whole story. The whole world.
They were setting her up to be the next Ashanti in this whole world where she toured with Ja Rule and that whole crew.
Yeah.
And so she already had her own understanding by being immersed in the Murder Inc. crew.
Even where I went to high school, where I graduated high school, I was the minority. So I was the minority. We maybe 6 white kids out of 2,000 students. There were more Chinese, there were more Indian, more Hispanic, and mostly Black. And so I went to 2 different high schools. The other one was mostly white. So it's just, I had an interesting upbringing and got to experience a lot of different cultures, socioeconomic backgrounds. Like I got to swim in a lot of it and realize humans are humans and we just look different.
Right.
And one of the things, like I've been doing work in Africa since I was 20, nonprofit work, drilling clean water wells, doing sustainable development. And I'm the minority there, right? So I know what it feels like to stand out. I mean, I'm like one of the only white people, me and my partner with our family. We have a whole family in Tanzania. That's our family now. And I'm, one of the only white people there. And I love that culture. And I love learning from that culture and eating the food and experiencing it. And I got to discover that when I was on tour with Murder Inc. And so I got this whole world opened up to me, traveling Asia and traveling Africa and Europe and all over, that it's like, wow, there's so much more than what we know.
Let me tell you this too. So culturally, right, for her, Santa Claus and Jesus and all of that stuff, it would never even register that those images would be images of self-hatred for people like you and I. And so when we first got together, there were things that I'd say, hey, listen, when we have kids, I don't necessarily want these images. Even when we talk about the tooth fairy and certain things, we're always making sure that they can have color too. And so there's a dance that we've introduced each other to. I can remember watching the election however many years ago when Trump was going, and he said something. We were watching it together, and he said, "They're coming for the middle class." And I said, "See, this is a subtle way. Who's the they? Who's the they that he's speaking about?" And so because she's not racist, because she doesn't have that hatred in her heart, she doesn't even hear the dog whistle of Trump saying, "Hey, the Black people are coming for you. The Mexicans are going to jump over that wall and kill you." And then what that does culturally when you walk out and you know that people have heard this man spewing this thing that's a little innuendo about who we are. So we educate and support each other so much about being a woman that I have learned, including all the hormones and premenopausal and perimenopausal and all the different things. I'm not a woman. I don't know. Like you and I could walk through a dark alley tonight.
I don't even get in my car in a parking lot during the day without checking the backseat.
Correct.
Like how crazy is that? Because I've actually I have the trauma of someone jumping into my car
Holy
and having
shit.
that happen. So we just see the world differently, right?
I mean, they say privilege is invisible to those who have it, right?
Yes. So, and we all are privileged in some way. And it's just, again, bringing the unconscious to the conscious and becoming aware of that which we are unaware of. It makes us better humans.
Well, it's actually really good to know that in your relationship, you've been receptive to the differences and just willing to open up and learn about each other, So, and your response to it, just saying that like the subtle differences, like we see it, we live it. So sometimes I've had conversations with people who don't see it and they refuse to see it. And they say I'm crazy. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Watch
good
this. So people, I lived in Louisiana for 8 years, and I went to Southern University, all black college, and I went to LSU University, Louisiana State University, all white college. And people would say to me, "Hey, you lived in Louisiana for 8 years. How was that?" And I'd say it depends on what skin color you are, right? Depends on what jersey you're wearing, because Louisiana to a white person is the greatest place on the planet.
Not to me. I didn't like it at all.
But Louisiana, to somebody who happens to be Afro-amazing, can be hell on earth because of the divide and how much programming to keep the whites and the blacks separate, and how much fear and hatred is just steeped in the culture.
Yeah.
And so, and I love Louisiana. And living there for 8 years, I got to see it as an outsider and then become an insider and go, oh my God, they have the longest desegregation case in U.S. history in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
And when I went there, like, you can feel that. You can feel energetically. And I didn't even know the history until he told me, but you can feel energetically that it's a different kind of energy there. You know, you cannot mistake it. We landed and got off the plane, and I'm like, ooh, it is thick here.
I felt that in Louisiana. I felt that in Mississippi.
I've never been to Mississippi, but I would believe it would be the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. I got time for more?
Yeah, a couple more. And shout out to all the people of Louisiana and Mississippi, white, black, whatever you are.
Yeah.
We love you. We see you. We're talking about the
outliers.
The systematic programming and racism that's steeped in all of it.
Yeah, that we can't be outside of. It doesn't necessarily mean all people are that. But it's the same thing with feminism. Doesn't mean feminism's bad, but there are repercussions of it. And there is something that our history as Americans, we are built off of a lot of bad.
Correct. And watch this. Just a quick story. The first time I really got ganged up on by a group of people was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm 21 years old. I'm at the LSU football game, and I'm walking with my friends who all happen to be white. And we're all walking together to the football game. And as we're walking through, everybody's tailgating. And I see all the Confederate flags, but I think not too much of it, but I'm black.
Someone just turned off.
It was that camera. You're good. You can keep talking.
But I'm black, so I'm aware. And as we're walking, I start to hear, monkey, nigger, monkey. And my friends are kind of like, what is happening? And I already know what's happening.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey guys, just keep walking. Monkey, tiger bait. And they're drunk, and they realize that they have me outnumbered. And so we walk and we keep going. My friends are kind of like thrown off. We get into the stadium, and we're in the student section, and it is, 50,000 people in there. And again, I'm the one of like, there's thousands, and you can only see my one black face. And we start to see beer cans and things thrown in our direction. Again, my friends are like, what is happening? I'm like, bro, I know what's happening. It's okay to cheer for these black football players.
Right.
But they don't like me being amongst them. And my friends, everybody's scared, and all this stuff is coming. I'm scared too. I don't want to get hit with a can. I don't want to get killed. I don't want to get jumped by a bunch of frat boys who now have this liquid courage in them. And that happened so many times out there that I went into a deeper level of hypervigilance. And I'm like, yo, it's actually not safe to be here. I went to a frat party. Last one, I went to a frat party. Again, I was trying to be as aware as possible. And I'm walking through, I went to the bathroom. And in these frat houses, they have these pictures of all the different classes. And I'm looking at the pictures, all, good white dudes. And in the middle is this black puppet in each picture. This black doll in the middle of every single one. I'm like, yo, that's interesting. Then I see the black puppet thing sitting outside. Again, interesting. I say nothing. Then I start to hear them say, the Canadians are here. Right? Oh, the Canadians are here. The Canadians are here. And at some point, I'm like, yo, something's going down. So I asked my friend who's in the frat, I said, yo, what's going on, man? He was like, man, you should probably leave. I'm like, why? He was like, because the Canadian stands for nobody likes Canadians. So the black people are here. Nobody likes black people. And I was like, done.
Wow.
I'm out.
Wow.
Man.
And these are the guys who own the businesses and run the shops and decide who they hire and who they don't hire. For those of you out there, this isn't a podcast about racism, but I just want you guys to understand that this is the type of stuff. These are the type of people who are running.
Yeah.
Right. And running for office.
Amongst us.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we were even watching a documentary on Las Vegas in the heyday.
Yes.
And they were talking about how all of these, like the major casinos brought in the amazing black entertainers of their time. But those same black entertainers that were selling out shows were not allowed to walk through the front door. They were not allowed to stay in the hotel. They were not allowed to swim in the pool. And like just that dichotomy of, we'll take you for this, but not for that. We'll accept your entertainment, but not your human, not your whole self. Like that's an energy we're all still living in. It's what this country was built on. We first are on stolen land. Let's just acknowledge that.
100%.
Right? And then we have stolen people who helped build the backbone of this nation. And if we don't acknowledge that, part of healing trauma is acknowledging and taking responsibility for it. And so I think we are in a time where it's been beautiful because there's been this uprising of like, oh no, it's time. But there still hasn't been an honest conversation with honest responsibility taken about who we are as Americans, not individuals, but as a nation, as a culture, what it was built and predicated upon. And doesn't mean we're fully that now, but we're swimming in the soup of living in the effects of that cause.
Right.
And so we have to acknowledge it to move past it. We have to acknowledge it to transform it. The only way we transform it is by honest, real conversations. And I think we're yet to really have that. And I'm excited for when that does happen, but it feels like it's hopefully getting closer.
I think in a lot of ways it is getting closer from, platforms like you guys and the conversation with social media and everything. But in a lot of other ways, there's a conscious decision to try to roll it back.
100%. I mean, you think about a very popular slogan that's out there. It's, make America great again. Well, what exactly does that mean? If we really think about it from a philosophical standpoint, when was it great? Right. And what did that greatness require? And who was in power and in charge? And is there an egalitarian space that exists? Or, what does that actually look like? And so I think we have to get bigger than what the media is positioning to us. And actually, it's my number one pet peeve, right? I think we are missing this skill of critical thinking. And I think as a mature society, we get to learn how to put our head on our shoulders and think bigger and see a much wider picture and make choices for ourselves rather than just taking what is given to us. And so I think we get to be in critical thought about a lot right now in politics and the way things are run, in everyday things in social media. All of it requires tuning into our own truth and going, what's really here?
That's real. So in the podcast that we both did together, there was a concept that really, really resonated with people. And it was the concept of finding your purpose and the ant. How did you come up with that? How did you come to that realization? Like, because I want to just dive deeper into that example.
Yes. One, shout out to Derek Rydell because he had a similar example.
Okay.
And right as I was reading that, I went and did 8 days in the forest, where 4 of those days, and you could call it a vision quest, you could call it a vision fast, but for 4 of those days, I spent it by myself with no tent, 2 gallons of water, and I just was there in nature. And I had multiple moments during that time where I could recognize that, for example, there would be a ant mound with, let's call it 50,000 ants in there, and they'd be doing their thing. And just like 5 feet away is a whole nother mound with 50,000 ants doing their thing. They're both existing and working and having their beingness on the same soil, and yet they exist in different worlds. And I started having this sort of vision and understanding that all of it is happening in the present moment. And because I have the opportunity to look above, it all in some ways slows down. And I can see the fundamental order of the entire thing, which would be considered the chaos theory. Chaos theory says that if you pull far enough back and back and back and back, you will see that there's an order to the whole thing. And so for me, way before I read anything of Derek Rybdel's, way before I ever found myself in the forest, I had been speaking to this understanding that purpose comes down to function, right? What was I built for? And when I think about, for instance, a tiger and how different they are than a leopard, both of them have functions. The tiger's function is to exist. It's to kill. It's to swim. It's to chase down and kill certain animals so that the ecosystem can complete itself. The leopard has an entire different function. It doesn't kill the same animals. It lives in a tree. It surprises by attack. There's a whole different function, and yet they look the same. And so for me, when it comes to purpose, I just pull far and further back, and I go, okay, what is a human really supposed to be doing here? And the only answer I could come up with is expressing and experiencing. And above that is love. Expressing and experiencing love. That's what we're all here for, with many missions. The mission will change on a need-to-know basis. My purpose was always the same, and yet when we had children, the mission shifted. I'm still expressing, experiencing, and yet a part of that is I have a new mission to be the best dad I could be. My purpose was always to express and experience love in only the way that I could. And yet when I met this beautiful woman, my mission became to be the best boyfriend, then fiance, then husband I could possibly be. So along this beautiful, unending circle, this circle and cycle of life, you pick up different missions based on your environment. I hope that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. I'm a big Alan Watts fan.
Yeah.
And he talks about the meaning of life, to dance.
That's it.
It's the dance.
That's it. Art.
It's the dance.
That's it.
Yeah. I love your response. So last questions for you, Alexi. You guys have such an interesting dynamic, like the way you guys met. And I know Preston described how he posted the picture of the wolf.
Yeah.
And he knew you didn't.
Not yet.
And that's another thing that a lot of people gravitated to, y'all's story.
Yeah.
I want your side of it.
Yeah.
So Preston knew you were the one. What were you thinking?
Well, it's interesting because when I met him, because we were introduced through a friend when I was in London. And so we briefly connected, via Facebook. And it was always under, you two are going to work together because you're up to similar things in the world. Cool. So snapshot. I get back to LA. I have tickets for this event on a Friday or a Saturday night. My friend calls me who has tickets for Friday night. She's like, hey, can you swap tickets with me? I got a call back for this audition. So I'm like, sure. So I'm now going to the Friday event. I'm running late. I'm never late for anything. I'm a Virgo. I'm always 10 minutes early. I'm running late. I show up. There's a line out the door. Oh, we sold out. There's no extra seats. I'm like, oh, man. Then the guy pulls me and sits me in the front row next to this guy and his date, right? So the synchronicity is amazing. And there's a lot prior to that. Like I got the call to move from New York where I had built up my entire life to go to LA where I had to start over. And I didn't know what that call was for, but it came through in meditation. It was so strong. And so I went and explored LA and I was like, all right, I'm just going to go for it. Let's see. And it wasn't until a year later that we ended up in that room together. So the universe was conspiring and pulling all these pieces together. But when I met him, it wasn't that initial spark of like, oh, this is my person. Because I was dating someone who had previously been my friend that he was pursuing me for a while. And all my friends are like, girl, you're crazy. This guy's amazing. He's perfect on paper. You're crazy. I'm like, am I crazy? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I should give this guy a shot, right? So we were good friends. We start long distance dating. But it wasn't really landing for me, right? But I'm dating him. So it's like, cool, I'm dating him. When I date someone, I'm kind of like blinders on. I don't really see anybody else. And so when I see him, obviously he's a good looking guy, but I'm not in that mode at all. I'm in work mode. I'm in like, oh, cool, we're supposed to work together. So it was like, oh yeah, you're Preston. And he's like, he very awkwardly was like, we should meet for coffee sometime. And I'm like, okay, that's a little weird, but yes, okay, I'm gone for the next week traveling. I'll be back. Yeah. Let's link up. And so I actually was mentoring someone that same day that we had a coffee meeting, which for him, it was a coffee date. But I was mentoring someone right before. And I remember looking down at my cup of coffee and there was this heart, like the little bubbles that happen in your coffee. There was like a perfect heart. I took a picture of it because I was like, that's crazy. I've never seen anything like that. So I go to this meeting with him. I show up early. He comes behind me and like grabs me from behind and spins me around. I'm like, yo, this dude is crazy.
Wild.
Like, what? Like, this is a work meeting to me. So I'm already like kind of off center a little bit. Like, what is happening?
I put my dick on her butt and she
right.
was like, oh, please take
Excuse
that
me,
off.
sir. What is going on? And he was playful about it. It wasn't like weird or creepy. It was playful and fun. But I was like, whoa, weird context. So we sit down. So I'm now as a woman, I'm used to men like trying to like come in for work, but like trying to date me too. So now I put on like the work. I pull out my laptop. I'm like, all right, so tell me about what you're up to in the world. Tell me about your vision. Asking him all the questions, trying to figure out how we're supposed to work together.
Guard's up. The guard is up.
Guard is all the way up.
Okay.
But then he starts talking. I'm like, yo, we have the same vision. And I have always been a person who has been so passionate about my vision, about supporting others, about giving back, about making an impact in the world, about using my voice, aggregating ideas, sharing them. Like I've always, since I was little, I've known that I've been meant to do big things and help people. And I've never met anybody that has known with such conviction like I have. I've always been weird. Like, you're weird. You care too much. And he did too. And I was like, wait, there's a dude. First of all, there's a dude that cares this much about other people. What? And then we start talking about books and Alan Watts and Ram Dass and Marianne Williamson and Agape. And we're like, wait, you're up at Science of Mind? You've read Science of Mind? It's like, wait, what? Like I'm a nerd. I am a research nerd. I read everything. I'm like, you've read that? I'm like, all right, tell me your favorite part of it, right? Testing him. And he's like, oh, I'm like, oh, he's read this, So now my guard's coming down and I'm like, oh shit. Like this is the thing that the guy I'm currently dating is missing. And I didn't know it at the time, but I felt it in that moment. And we left that restaurant and ended up walking around Larchmont for like 3 hours talking.
And I asked her a question.
Yeah.
This is where the game really changed. I said, hey, I know you're dating somebody, but
yeah, because I shared that with him.
Like in an ideal world, what is your perfect person? Like describe your perfect partner. And she started describing. And I was like, yo, she is talking about me. Like, I knew. And I knew too. In that moment, I was like, oh shit, I'm talking about this dude. And again, like it wasn't perfect on paper. And there were a lot of things when we were talking that I was like, all right, he's at the beginning stages of his career. I just gotten out of the year prior, 4-year-long relationship, 5-year-long one before that. And like those guys were more projects. And I was like, fuck, I don't want a project. But then I was like, oh no, he knows it. He knows who he is. This isn't a project. This is a collaborative thing.
So you knew.
I knew.
You knew.
And at that moment I knew, but I was still resistant.
Yes.
Because it was my year of being single. It's like my first time being single as an adult. I was like, I'm not committing to anybody. That's why I didn't commit exclusively to this friend of mine. So I was like, I just haven't been on my own in forever. And I want to just feel what it feels like to be by myself. Right. And so I was like, I had 2 months left of my year of being single. Okay. Right. So this is November. And I'm like, nope, no, not going to do it. So we just stayed friends
Mm-hmm.
and we hung out almost every day. Like we went to Barnes and Noble and read books. We watched documentaries at night and we were just like on some friend shit, just like getting to know each other and talking about ideas. We talked for hours about the universe and samadhi and what does it all mean and what's the purpose of life and just all the things. And then finally, there was a moment where he had a speech and the guy that I was dating, and I was very honest with him about all this, but the guy I was dating invited me to a movie premiere that he was a part of. And he had a college speech at this like small local college. And I was like, I want to go see him talk. Like,
You said no to me first.
I did. Cause I was like, oh, I have a previous engagement and like, I have to honor that. I sat with it. I'm like, I actually don't want to go to that. Like, I don't want to go to a movie premiere. And I would have dressed up, been on the red carpet and had photos taken and all the things. I was like, I actually just want to go see him talk. And that was a big indicator for me. And I remember being there in the audience, watching him on stage and just seeing his bigness and his brightness and just seeing how brilliant he is in his magic. And he asked a question about Einstein. And it's like, you know, does anyone know what this means? And my hand goes up and I answer the question. And it was just a moment where like the energy was so thick between us.
It was so real.
It was so undeniable at that point that it was like, come on, like, she really going to wait one more month for this? Or like, where are we at here? Where are we at?
Continue the story. This is where it gets crazy. Y'all, if y'all listen to this, watch this.
Yeah. So any women out there know this. The minute you're about to be taken off the market, all the men from your past come swimming. They can smell it. They can smell it. So at the same time, I got all these men from my past, ex-boyfriends, a couple guys I went on a date with, like, hey, I want to lock it down. I want to get serious. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, whoa, what is going on? So sure enough, we were driving home and I told him all this. He knew everything that was going on. Driving home, he pulls me up to my car. And he's like, okay, I'm just going to let you know, like, I know what this is. And it's clear to me that you don't yet. And until you do, I'm taking my name out of the hat because there's a lot of guys swimming in your space and you're getting a lot of attention. And I don't want to be just another guy. Like, I know what this is. So I'm going to take my name out of the hat until you know what this is. And maybe I'll be around. Maybe I won't. I was like, okay. So I just sat with that.
We hugged.
I
got out of the car, or you got out of the car.
Yep.
I drove to my friend's house and I cried. I was like, yo, I just broke up with my wife.
Yeah.
I had this crazy moment. I was like, I had to do it though, because she didn't really get that she's my wife.
Yeah. But I did, but I just wasn't like, I didn't know if I was ready for it to be like wifed up. You know, like, was I ready to be like, what? Like, wife? To me, wife was like, wife, kids, like, like, whoa, am I ready for all that? Like, it felt really big, right? And so I'm driving home and I'm really letting that marinate. And I thought to myself, like, Lex, you know what this is. Like, you know. Why are you going to play games? Like, you know what this is. What, you're going to delay it a month to make your year being single? And I just went home, called every dude that was in the space, any energy that was out at all, even if it was a text message. Hey, remember me from 2 months ago? I just made it clear, like, hey, I'm off market. Like, I'm not available. And I called him and was like, let's do this. And I came over to your house and it was official from that point on. And it moved pretty fast.
10 years later, we're sitting right
11
here.
now. 11 years.
11 years later. We have not separated from that moment.
We haven't.
So for those of you out there listening, I was so clear and so convicted about what this was that I was willing to lose it. I was willing to pull it off the table. Also, catch this, especially for those of you who feel like you're the underdog. That dude she was talking about, the movie premiere and the Hollywood and the money and the glitz and the glam. I had maybe 50 people at that speech.
Yeah.
And she chose because I was so in alignment. I was so congruent with my vision and my purpose and my love space that she chose that over the fancy thing.
Yeah. And like, again, this friend who I dated, who's an amazing guy, like who has a kid and is married now. He's a famous person. He has a lot of money. He's a beautiful human. He has a great heart, comes from a good family. Like, he's an amazing guy, but he wasn't mine. And I think sometimes we try and fit ourselves into like, oh, this is supposed to be the type of person I want. But you know in your body when it's not aligned. And so sometimes it doesn't look how it's supposed to look, but your body's like, hey, I know the future that's happening. Like, I have a belief that our kids brought us together. Like, my belief is very clear that our kids' energy up in whatever is up here in the field was like you two. And they orchestrated a whole bunch of yeses, a whole bunch of no's, a whole bunch of ups and downs to make sure we got together, stayed together, and also went through some shit so that we could actually be with each other. And so, you know, you never know what is playing out that's bigger than what is seen. And so trusting your body, because your body knows that stuff. Your body can tap into that field, but our minds can't always see it.
That's so beautiful. Well, I appreciate both of you guys for sitting down and talking with me. This has been an amazing conversation. I hope the audience learned a lot, and let's definitely do a part 3.
Yes.
Let's definitely do a part 3.
I have to tell you about my vasectomy and how we ended up with a 4th child.
Wait, what?
Yes. But this is what I'm saying. Like, real talk. I think our kids are like, wait.
Wait, what?
So tell it.
No, we'll tell it in part 3.
Yeah.
Oh, part 3.
Time to come back. Okay,
all right. For that.
Appreciate y'all. Peace.
This is the Sacred Thomas